actually doing the tree a favor now, because now what's happening is I'm
Son
removing
of a bitch.
all the ends and the tips where the hormones are produced, and now the tree is saying, I'm in crisis mode. I'm getting eaten by something. A human is harvesting me. You know, I need to basically shoot out more growth tips and grow more branches. And that's how the tree works. This way they also keep it nice and short. I mean, I think they've pruned this down to, depending most parts of this is like no higher than 6 feet, maybe 10 feet tall, so that all the new growth is always pretty low, so you can basically just grab it and break it
On the
off.
clock now, it's
And
the
then you
Dolphins,
can,
and time is ticking.
processing it into the different various foods. Now, one of the things is I would encourage you guys not to harvest too young. Normally they do not harvest at a month old because, the month-old greens have not been connected. The longer the leaves are connected to the plant, the more nutrients really those leaves are going to suck up. So they're harvesting at a more mature
Okay, the
age
Panthers on the
to
clock
get more
now.
nutrients in the leaves at that point. Now, the nutrient content of the leaves will vary depending on the life cycle, whether it's, young baby like I ate early in the episode,
Now the Broncos
whether
are
it's
on
more
the clock.
mature, or whether it's
Who do
more
they have their eye
mid-age.
on?
And probably, honestly, the best is to harvest it at all different ages to get the influx of all the different nutrients when they are at different ages, because the age does make a difference. All right, so what you guys are looking at now is the back of my rental pickup truck that they upgraded me to, so that was nice. And they basically all that stuff from 1 month of growth right into the back of the truck, including the stuff I just talked about in that last scene. Throw it in the back of the truck. We're going to go ahead and drive this back, show you guys how it gets processed. Plus, I think some other guys have come back with even a larger tree that was going to be like 50 feet that had been growing maybe 6 months. So we're going to get to see how much that tree yielded as well. So this small tree is literally 1 month. And all this, it might look like a lot in the back of a Toyota Tacoma pickup truck. That's not sponsored. But all this will get processed and dried into literally maybe 1 kilo, maybe 1.5 kilos, but at least 1 kilo of dried product of all this fresh product. I mean, it really condenses down when you remove that moisture. But that means if you're eating the 1 pound or the 1 kilo of food, you're literally getting this much fresh, because when you take the water out, it concentrates all the different nutrients. Now, that being said, as much as the dried product is concentrated and it's definitely good for you, I would encourage you guys also to eat the fresh product. The only way you're going to have fresh product, fresh moringa, is if you grow it yourself, or if you're lucky enough to live in the
It's the Cowboys now on the clock. Okay, here we go. The Colts now on the clock. The Bills are now on the clock. The Chargers now on the clock. The Lions on the clock now. The Browns are now on the clock. The Falcons are now on the clock. Washington is now on the clock. Okay, here we go. The Vikings on the clock now. The Bucks on the clock now. Let's see who they have their eye on. Okay, the Steelers on the clock now. All right, next up, the Bengals are on the clock. On the clock now, it's the Patriots. The 49ers on the clock now. What direction will they go? Okay, here we go. The 49ers now on the clock. The Patriots on the clock right now. Let's see who they have their eye on. The Bengals now on the clock. Let's see what they do. And the Steelers on the clock now. Let's see what direction they go. The Buccaneers are on the clock now. All right, it's now the Vikings' turn. They're up. The football team now on the clock. Let's see what they do. The Falcons on the clock now. Let's see who they have their eye on. Okay, the Browns on the clock now. On the clock now, it's the Chargers, and time is ticking. The Bills on the clock now. What direction will they go? All right, next up, the Colts are on the clock. All right, on the clock now, the Cowboys. All right, the Broncos are now on the clock. All right, it's the Panthers now on the clock. The Dolphins now on the clock. The Ravens are now on the clock. Okay, here we go. The Jets now on the clock. Now we turn to the Eagles. They're on the clock. The Jaguars are now on the clock. All right, now on the clock, the Texans. Okay, here we go. The Raiders now on the clock. Okay, here we go. The Cardinals now on the clock. Now the Seahawks are on the clock. Who do they have their eye on? The Chiefs on the clock now. The Saints are on the clock now. What direction will they go? All right, on the clock now, the Saints. The Chiefs are up now. Let's see what direction they go. The Seahawks are on the clock now.
It's the same thing. I mean, it's boring as hell. The other guy wants to talk about worm testing. Jesus Christ, get him out of here. I don't have a whiz bang. Well, now we're going to be doing cat urine. Yeah. Or something there, because we want that flavor in our weed. We want it to taste like cat.
The Cardinals on the clock now. What direction will they go?
Yeah.
And I could definitely see us in the living room more after that.
But I'm looking at the list, and it's like you talking about what our dynamic accumulator was. You've already mentioned a couple times.
Yeah.
One, we were always wondering
With stuff all fixed up and the ambiance to it.
all these questions. Paramagnetic energy. I started buying books from Callahan.
All the time.
I love it.
Energy wells.
Yes.
Everywhere, all the time, on point.
Serum from milk. And turns out, well, yeah, that's protein powder. That's amino acids.
At any time, something sexy could happen.
What you buy when you buy a protein shake. That's what
You know what I'm saying?
eat where they don't have to waste any nitrogen. So, man, they kind of
We could have plenty space in all three refrigerators. Clean. They will. Everything be all clean. You know what I'm saying? Plenty cabinet space. Use of all cabinetries.
And now on the clock, it's the Raiders.
Yeah. Let me explain. When I first heard about Dr. Frost, he didn't have distributors.
On the clock now, it's the Texans. Time is ticking.
You had to buy it from their headquarters down in Independence, Oregon, right?
All right, the Jaguars are now on the clock.
And so it wasn't until 4 or 5 years later, after I got introduced to it, that he set up a distribution system.
And the Eagles on the clock now. Let's see what direction they go.
Because it was kind of a pain in the ass. I mean, you could only order like 100 grams on the humic acid part, and I don't remember what the fulvic, but I always said go for it, buy it down. Once he told me that stuff was fermented, so it lasts almost in perpetuity. That's all I needed to know. So if I buy a gallon, it'll still be good in 2 years. Oh, okay, so let's do that kind of thing.
Well, you turned me
The Jets now on the clock.
Get on the phone.
Okay, the Ravens are on the clock now.
I'm the owner like that.
No.
And he would discuss it with me, and he started saying, I didn't know. I'm just thinking it's fulvic acid. And so I'm asking questions. And he goes, well, the water we use has never touched the ground. We get rainwater.
Yes.
And it's collected before it hits the ground. And we vortex the rainwater with the like the bacteria that originally colonized the lava rock in Hawaii. You're thinking, what the? This guy.
All right, the Dolphins are now on the clock.
It goes beyond what I originally.
The Panthers now on the clock.
FAQ, I said, yeah, like past fulvic acid probably the most, and that is in direct relation to a lot of our conversations behind the scenes. So.
he gave me a really nice
On the clock now, it's the Broncos, and time is ticking.
He said, I've had a lot of conversations with you over the years, but like you're talking about. Because I call him up and we'd sit on the phone for 45 minutes to an hour talking about the intricacies of IPM in Hawaii with their wide range of insects that decimate crops and what have you. So
Can you imagine? Because I've been knowing like this. I've been knowing that the whole time, but it's like I need you to. That's why I be like I feel good most of the time, but it's just like hey, do you see this? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's why I be like, hey, you need to get out the room, and like I be like, you under restraints. We're under restraints, babe. It's
The
crazy.
Cowboys now on the clock.
Let's get free.
Is often the carrier for his concoctions like the micronutrients which he formulates. Faust makes our big six. That's ours.
Right. Well, he mentioned
You with it?
and I thought he was talking about you. He said that he had worked with somebody in Colorado to come up with a formulation that would be best for their situation, their customers, or whatever. That's the kind of person he is. I mean, he's just an old hippie, man. He's really cool. We were talking about
The Colts are now on the clock.
Spent a lot of time in Ecuador working with indigenous tribes to elevate the nutrient density of the food that they grow. That's his big thing. And working with poor people around the world. See, we all have an energy, and we can expend that energy.
It's the Bills now on the clock.
People like Dr. Frost decided that he wanted to better the lives of people that probably are off the radar of most governments or agencies. And
Okay, the Chargers up now. They're on the clock.
Showing them, here's how you want to plan it. I mean, doing all the things that Dr. Frost does. And to have that type of person as a supplier is a real blessing. I mean, you're offering your...
Fuck no. We about to do a dump off. We about to do it's a dump off, and like, all right. How you do the dogs or the cats? You just take them to the far ends of the east side or whatever. Like, all right now. Because it's crazy. Because a motherfucker will let it just go on until eventually we upstairs too old to do anything and need a motherfucker.
To go to people that are just buying some property and selling it.
Did you know that the first use of gypsum by the human
race
was Buddhist monks in China to make tofu? It's the coagulant used in Chinese style.
Taking our cars and shit.
I got one of the heavies, you know. In fact, first recipe I ever made.
Music turned up all crazy.
Local for rock dust. I found calcium sulfate in bags at the local horse place.
Yes,
cultural place. I didn't know. I used all 4 cups per cubic foot of that. Rock dust, not gypsum.
Oh yeah, right.
Best crops I've ever had to this day.
I want to go back and touch on because there's so few in the United States. Your source there on the worm casting. This gentleman, I hope you'll pass this on to him. On the west coast from Canada to Mexico, there's only 4 people that I would buy.
I had the fatal for you too when I said, all right, it's gonna be y'all tree.
It's the Lions.
And then I was sitting here like that. I feel sorry for Jack. Yeah, I would feel sorry for Jack.
Well, he came from a background.
Jack gonna dip.
He was a producer and he grew a lot of different crops. And so
no, I'm saying he would be treated good, but he gonna be like the misery. He's gonna be the one that have to sit back through all the tears, because you gonna be upstairs like, you gonna be like, man.
Let's see what direction they go. All right, next up, the Falcons are on the clock.
Got a good amount of supply. We haven't broken him, but it's been this thing where he, as a producer, said, I only want to make the best quality. That's how it'll work. And we kind of priced it so that he wouldn't sell out on day one. And it's been years now. He came in the other day.
He would want to be. I know he would. He would want to be like, yo, we don't do nothing without you.
Okay, here we go. Washington now on the clock.
No team.
when it went thermal and cooled enough so that you had it. Everybody had to agree.
The Vikings are now
Oh
on the clock.
shit! You just made me remind
One
me.
day they would ask the level of quality that you've discussed about kind of, hey, that little bit of effort now saves me from all the effort down the line. And even when we made the coop soil in the beginning, we would all be like, yeah, but we don't have its castings. What do we do? So we'd add extra everything just to the soil. And I'm not saying that Provoco makes the coop formula.
All right, next up, the Bucks are on the clock.
It is a slow.
All right, it's the Steelers now on the clock.
Long drawn out, warm worked process that makes a stick to your ribs, clay-like texture that doesn't dry out in a minute. I mean, it is full of nutrients to the point where it's, if you use too much, I mean, it's loaded.
Please tell him, pass this on. That definitely is the food mix.
Okay.
If I lived in Colorado, I would be one of his big customers.
Well, he put a lot of malted seed in there too. I mean, he had some tricks in there, but he definitely listened to you when you mentioned that. It's pretty cool. So
the castings are the life force of any soil, whether we're growing indoors or in a bed, in a container, in a field. You know, the royal.
And now we turn to the Bengals. It's their selection.
Old China, the royal family was the only one allowed to drink tea. And the feeding was 2 handfuls of worm castings around the base of each plant once a year. That was it. And
It's nothing. All we got to do is make sure the dosages be right. You understand?
The Patriots are now on the clock.
Oh, no doubt. That's what it's for. We got to do the science. The science is for the day off, babe. Come on now. I wouldn't even want to let us. I wouldn't even cut us loose like that.
Okay, it's the Patriots on the clock now.
Yeah, that's a good book. Eating the Sun by Merton.
Okay, here we go. The Bengals now on the clock.
Drive the universe. And it's true.
that's like formic acid, right? It's the sun, the golden elixir.
Right. So, anyway, I did want to, we touched on it, but I was introduced on a question somebody asked me about the Build a Soil 3.0, and I said to the person, well, to be real honest with you, I'm not familiar. So he said, well, I'll send it to you, the ingredients. So obviously, must have taken it from your website. So I'm going down the list and thinking, Jesus Christ, this guy put in everything.
Well, it ain't been washed since there?
In a good way, you know. That has to be a kick-ass soil. One that it lasts a long time. I mean, multi-year.
No, it works well. It's this elusive hunt for this perfect soil. I don't think it exists.
The Steelers are now on the clock.
I think that was way after that.
I'm like, I like all of our soils. I use the light, use 3.0 because it's kind of like buying which flour makes the best bread. You're like, well, I'd rather have a pantry full of all the flours and do whatever I feel like. Diversity is probably better.
But you tell me that it's thought out.
It is.
Yeah, we go to work.
To be honest, it's a huge pain in the ass to make.
To and from work.
Make it. We thought about the ingredients, and now it's a nightmare. But that being said, I always, even if a friend calls, I tell them just make your own soil from scratch. And
even back and forth to work for 2-3 months. I mean, a month.
And it shouldn't really make a huge difference. And there's not a magic bullet in soil. I don't want anybody to think that. But I will tell you, when I started reading the Steve Solomon book on soil testing that you turned me on to, and others, and then I made a Coots mix of soil with the neem and the kelp and the salt and all that stuff and the good compost, and I sent it to the lab.
Okay, it's the Bucks now on the clock.
Yes.
Now, eventually we learned that, maybe
the Vikings are on the clock now. What direction will they go?
And then we learned, wow, not all compost is the same. In fact, that's the single biggest breakthrough.
And now we turn to the WFT. It's their selection.
If they just go buy the compost down the street, it might be full of Roundup or whoever knows what, right? And so that, I think, was the language barrier.
Oh, no.
Now that we're seeing...
Yeah, if that stuff be filled, then every day I have to wipe him off. And you be like,
anybody can just go make it.
Now I ain't got to do that shit.
Scaling that without, breaking it.
I'm gonna get the other one for the
it's
price
the
of two.
Falcons
The
now.
price will be dusty as hell.
Where we wanted to add more stuff, but it was still all the stuff you taught us about.
But I just needed that, especially plus when it rained or whatever.
Because we found out adding all the compost and all the stuff made almost too much.
It's good looking out.
And it works really well. But to this day, I still have people that will try and grow a 5-foot plant in a 1-gallon pot and say, hey, it's not water only. So I try not to call it or advertise any of our stuff as a water-only soil, because soil volume has always been our way to kind of make it easy.
Good. We got to be on the same level, man, and see. And we got to be seeing the world through the same lenses. You understand? Like I said, it'd be rough when I'm feeling high and I see good stuff around the corner and you don't.
Roll it up. And because I asked.
But yeah, we do that, and once we, you know what I'm saying, get on that, or now that you have that in your mind and locked in, you can look at the other possibilities. You know what I'm saying?
And but it's funny. You're the only one
you can see all the teams that can happen. You can feel more comfortable and optimistic about dinner times and all that. You know what I'm saying? We will utilize the dining room at that time. Like we can use the entire crib. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Where? Right up in the top of the right at the top of the steps.
Or even constituents, secondary.
Oh, okay. Well, in the top room, the top outside room. Mm-hmm. But it's gonna be hot, hot up that motherfucker. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of the
Yep.
And the Chargers now on the clock. Who do they have in their eye?
Got you.
A lot of times the chemical form will say, oh, in this plant, this seems to be the active ingredient. Let's make that a product, as opposed to the whole plant. Like ascorbic acid is not vitamin C.
Right.
It's interesting to see that happen, but I feel like there's been a number of things that happened out of those ICMAG days. A lot of commercial grows that are successful doing living soil when no one thought it was possible, and so I just feel like right place, right time. You know, I kind of got lucky that I was part of those early conversations. And then it was weird times. It was like we had that private.
The Colts now on the clock. Let's see what they do. The Cowboys on the clock now. What direction will they go?
Probably confusing. You would emotionally charge newspapers.
It's called gaslighting.
Gaslighting, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And I learned real early how far you could put your toes on the line. The other side you were getting banned. But you could just push right up again. Okay, here's a plastic one.
Okay, next up, it's the Broncos on the clock.
And ICMAG,
What'd you say?
got their own subfloor. And in those subfloors, they had
I spoke to her. I thought she said she was, because it was just a couple little boxes or something. She didn't need no help with nothing. And I asked her if she would grab the TV from me, and if she needed some help to get it or not. I'll hit her back and see if she did. But I believe she said she got until July 10th to get everything out of there. So if she didn't get it today, I'll get it for sure tomorrow.
I said, hey, genius, tell me something. Where did this picture get taken?
And we can work on that, clean that on up as good as we can, and order that remote for it.
And anyway, he just went off on me. And
we get our like once I get our other little things that we like to get or want to get, you know what I'm saying? We can start getting our different little electronic gadgets, you know what I mean? Like upgrades.
Well, it's funny because even in those times, it wasn't like you just went to.
Because even when we get that or use that, we definitely
now the Dolphins are on the clock. Who do they have their eye
legit
on?
living room TV. You know.
I find somebody who had publicly listed their personal seeds available for auction and shipping.
Yes, seed, yeah.
How'd they get overseas, then rebag and back over here, and a whole bunch of stoners that are apparently keeping the labels not switched and swapped. And
The Ravens are up now. Let's see what direction they go.
Shipments of 20 kilos.
And now we turn to the Jets. It's their selection.
All right. Well, because you could put them in anything package that you wanted to. You wanted a new, what was it then, Kush and Hayes. Now we have really janky stuff, but we were simple people then. We just had Hayes and Kush, and I was probably the only poster over there that's ever been to the Kush Valley. So it was really funny to me. Oh, so did you take the highway out of Vermont? Or did you come over from Kathmandu?
Get him some cat pings and make him be attracted to his cat pings.
And the other one is now today called Sensi Seats. That was originally in the late 80s was called the Super Seat Club. Is that a goofy name or what?
I don't know where the fuck he be at now. I think maybe he be under the couch now or something. Because every time I go up there and look for him, he ain't on the couch in that spot. All the doors be closed. You know what I'm saying? As far as your sons go.
On the clock now, the Jaguars.
I go upstairs. I don't be seeing him upstairs unless he under the bed. But he be under something.
Okay, the Texans up now. They're on the clock.
His children went to the same preschool that mine did. And that was
okay.
The Raiders on the clock now. What direction will they go?
I said, oh, okay.
When it comes to cannabis books, I know I've been...
All right, now it's the Cardinals' turn. They're up.
Yeah, I did learn a lot from Mel. I mean, his method of cloning could best be described as...
All right, the Seahawks are now on the clock.
But, whatever. But the bulk of it was actually firmly on track. I mean, better than telling you get a pizza oven and stick your soil in there.
That is crazy how man. Brutnell don't be doing nothing.
When I first went into the grocery store,
no type of extras on the assistants.
General Hydroponics and Dynagrow.
No type of Helpingtons
and after
with the Ussingtons. Damn. Just pure stress.
So they became the patron saint of the orchid world. You go to an orchid show and all they sell is Dynagrow. I mean, it's really bizarre. And that's why I got introduced to Nemo, because they had a product.
All right, the Chiefs are now on the clock.
They had Dynagrow neem tree oil. It was produced in
Crazy.
China.
Okay, it's the Saints now on the clock.
The meal, the cake, as they call it in most countries, was being merchandised or marketed.
Oh, buddy must have heard me talking about it. He strolled on down here and hopped on the couch in his spot with his eyes all. Yeah, he's sleepy and stuff or something. He just jumped up there and laid down. Got in this little ball.
You started talking about neem cake, and I'm trying to make a food mix in my house. So I drive up to the forest, and I'm harvesting some forest duck, and I've got my peat, my worm castings, and I'm going, I can't make it without the neem cake.
Like he just, soon as he came down, he hit me with the. Like what y'all say? What y'all say now? What's that? Here I go.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
On the clock now, the Chiefs.
Because they just had a bag, so to speak, and that's when I found Lucia. But this huge business, basically.
Man, that is gonna be fun, babe. To just have a whole, just basically like a punch bowl full of gummies. No worrying about having to go to the dispensary to get yourself together. Just litty, just litty on deck. You know what I'm saying? Just on deck liticities. Liddingtons. Yeah. Liddingtons. I can get some bags and packaging and call them Liddingtons. I got the vacuum sealer and everything.
Now on the clock.
Liddingtons.
Head of the effort to fight off that. It went all the way to the World Tour to The Hague. Why would W.R. Gray spend...
The Jaguars are up now. Let's see what direction
anytime once we get the dosages right and you know, like, yep, I can deal with these, you can just go to work and stay all day, no problem.
The Eagles are now on the clock.
$750 million was real money. And so that's why when you go and look around,
picking up little ass strips of tape.
You'll find all these filings from W.R. Grace, and that's when I started thinking,
no progress.
Together, what was really going on.
All right, next up, the Jets are on the clock.
What India had to do to fight it off was take temple rubbings, paintings, and show the history of the knee process.
On the clock now, the Ravens.
Thousands and thousands of years, and that's how they won the case. How can you take something out of a culture, claim it as
Okay,
your own?
next up, it's the Dolphins on the clock.
Credit for you. And unfortunately, this is one of those times when the legal
She don't do the edibles, though, do she?
Did the right thing, in my opinion.
And the Panthers on the clock now. Let's see what direction they go. The Broncos are on the clock now.
Well, it seems to repeat itself in the sense that about cannabis, it's been not a medical product because you can't profit off of something that is natural and has no ability to take it from a culture, so to speak. And so until it is turned into a pill that is more profitable than what they're currently doing, which it's interesting, it's like if you want to sell a real drug, it's got to have enough side effects to sell the second and third drug. You don't want just one that helps you keep the meat better. You know? So obviously all of our viewers could argue for the benefit of cannabis, and it's so easy to see.
Okay, it's the Cowboys now on the clock.
Farmers involved. It's not going to be as straightforward as interacting with the plant. And I don't want to forget that because the world's changing rapidly right now, and being a healthy human and having your own defense system, so to speak, it's never been more important. And one of the things we've noticed about growing healthy plants is not that bugs don't like them, bugs love them, but they tend to resist their own problems significantly better than a weak plant.
Of course.
Its own food.
Right, it's just logic. Let's take, you have a dog like I do, a bulldog.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge. On a bulldog.
I look up to you and how much you walk your dog, and I think my dog would definitely benefit from some of that extra. Well,
let's take that for a second. So her main diet is organic kibble from Costco, which is Call Wild is the brand of packed for Costco.
And now we turn to the Colts. It's their selection.
This is really horrible now. A kelp meal. Oh, no. Oh, kelp meal. Which, I don't know if you knew or not, in the world of kelp meal.
All right, now on the clock, the Chargers.
Revenue stream. The majority of kelp meal goes into...
Okay, baby.
You want strong race horse?
Okay, baby.
To the diet. And I'm not joking. Cow flatulence...
Love you too.
Is controlled with kelp.
Later, baby.
I gotta tell you real quick.
Later.
Who we buy for the They got bought by Acadian. Now Acadian owns Thornton because they're worried about
the Bears are up now. Let's see what direction they go.
A lot of people don't understand this. Kelp meal is controlled by an international treaty that goes back to 1958. So you and I couldn't go buy a trawler and head out of Boston towards North Pole and start whacking kelp and then market it. So the yield, or the harvest of it is controlled by an international commission, and that treaty's been...
Hey, what's up, guys? We've got a really cool video for you. Today, we're going to be making rosin-infused gummies. The recipe is simple. All you'll need is a box of Jell-O, MCT oil, agave or corn syrup, sunflower lecithin, citric acid, and gelatin.
Okay, it's the Lions now on the clock.
Some bomb weed and go ahead and pack your bag bottle tech style. We're going to be smashing.
Now we turn to the Browns. They're on the clock.
Smash your X, 120 micron bags.
On the clock now, it's the Falcons.
To operate one button extractions. It doesn't get any easier than this.
All right, next up, the football team on the clock. And now on the clock, it's the Vikings. On the clock now, it's the Buccaneers. Now we turn to the Steelers. They're on the clock.
We collected our rosin and we yielded a little less than a gram. Next, we're going to heat our X plates up to 240 degrees Fahrenheit. Grab your decarb capsule and put the rosin in the rosin pot. A really cool video for you. Today, we're going to be making rosin-infused gummies. The recipe is simple. All you'll need is a box of Jell-O, MCT oil, agave or corn syrup, sunflower lecithin, citric acid, and gelatin.
The Bengals are on the clock now.
First things first, grab an eighth of some balm weed and go ahead and pack your bag bottle tech style. We're going to be smashing on the Nug Smasher X, so we're using Nug Smasher X 120 micron bags. The X is a dream to operate, one button extractions. It doesn't get any easier than this.
All right, next up, the Patriots are on the clock. And now on the clock, it's the 49ers. The 49ers on the clock now. What direction will they go? On the clock now, it's the Patriots.
We collected our rosin and we yielded a little less than a gram.
All right, next up, the Bengals are on the clock.
Heat our X plates up to 240 degrees Fahrenheit. Grab your decarb capsule and throw your rosin in the rosin pot. Close up the decarb capsule and put it between the plates for 20 minutes so we can activate our THC. Once our 20 minutes is up, be very careful when releasing the plates. A ton of pressure is built up in our decarb capsule. Proceed with caution when removing a decarb capsule from between the plates.
You drafting?
Yeah, I'm drafting.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, I'm drafting, man. My squad look knocking it right now.
Send me a chat invite.
Okay, the Steelers on the clock now.
Now that our rosin is ready to infuse, we are going to add 10 milliliters of MCT oil to our beaker. Add low heat to help the rosin infuse with the oil. Now that our MCT oil is infused, we're going to add a teaspoon of sunflower lecithin, and we're going to stir it until it fully dissolves into our MCT oil. Once our oil is ready, we'll set it aside so we can start making our gummies.
The Bucks on the clock now. Let's see who they have their eye on.
Water to our beaker.
Okay, here we go. The Vikings on the clock
Let's
now.
add a quarter cup of agave to our water. You can use corn syrup if you like. We chose to use agave instead. Go ahead and turn on your magnetic stir. Next, we're going to add a half packet of Jell-O. You can pick any flavor you like. We decided to go with lemon. Add 1 packet of Knox gelatin to our mix. Next, we're going to add a quarter teaspoon of citric acid. Let the mixture stir for 5 minutes on low heat so that the gelatin can bloom and all of the mixture looks consistent and doesn't have any clumps. And for the final step, we save the best ingredient for last. We're going to add our MCT oil and let that infuse with our gummy mixture.
Washington is now on the clock.
Grab your gummy molds and spray them with cooking oil. Using a dropper, carefully fill all your molds. Let them sit out for about 30 minutes and then place them in the fridge for another 30 minutes.
The Falcons are now on the clock. The Browns are now on the clock.
Let your gummies aerate for 24 to 48 hours to achieve maximum gumminess. This will also help with storage. Bon appetit. Your weed-infused gummies are ready to eat. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to keep calm and smash on.
The Lions on the clock now. What direction will they go? On the clock now, the Bears. The Chargers now on the clock. Okay, here we go. The Colts now on the clock. It's the Cowboys now on the clock. Now the Broncos are on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
Now that wasn't so hard, was it? Look, man, a delicious gummy meal to enjoy, man. This is probably enough to last me the entire weekend. Anyway, good stuff. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And stay tuned for more information like this on the Wake Bake America channel. Thanks, all y'all.
Watching the video I made up in Portland, Oregon, where I visited these people that just got...
Okay, the Panthers on the clock now. On the clock now, it's the Dolphins, and time is ticking.
Stir until dissolved. Once dissolved, add 1/8 cup of sugar and stir until dissolved again. Now I know this may seem like a lot of sugar, but in the end, the gummies will have the perfect sweetness that masks the cannabis in the oil or butter that you use. Next, add 4 unflavored gelatin packets to a small bowl. If you're using half a cup of juice, gelatin, and slightly stir until combined and set aside for 10 to 15 minutes. Now, if you don't have a double boiler, pour 1 cup of water in a medium-sized pot and bring it to a boil. Then turn the pot down to a simmer and add a glass bowl on top. Add 1 cup of canola oil and 2 tablespoons of
The Jets
soy
now on the clock. Let's see what they do.
And then let this simmer for about 10 minutes. Now, while the oil is simmering, using a small pot, add the other half cup of juice and bring it to a boil. When boiling, add 1 pack or 3 ounces of the Jell-O mix and stir for 30 seconds to a minute until dissolved. Now, I use Starbucks Blue Raspberry Jell-O to keep the flavor consistent with the juice. You can also use Jolly Rancher
All right,
Jell-O.
it's the Eagles now on the clock.
It's like real candy, so I wouldn't recommend the Jell-O brand. Once dissolved, turn the Jell-O off, and here's where you need to move quick. And if you're enjoying this video, please don't forget to give this video
Okay, the Jaguars are now on the clock. And the Texans now on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
Add the Jell-O mix to the can of oil and stir until combined.
The Raiders now on the clock.
15 minutes of consistent stirring, so be prepared. Now, while you're stirring, you might notice a slight foam film on the top of the mixture. That means the mixture is not combined yet, so keep stirring until your mixture looks like this. By now, your gelatin should have bloomed and have a soft, gelatinized texture like this. So add the gelatin to the Jell-O mix and stir until completely combined. If you see small pieces of gelatin while you stir, use the spoon or spatula to break up the gelatin on the side of the bowl. This process should take about 10 minutes to complete and look like this when combined. This next step is optional and used as a preservative. If you have it, add 1 tablespoon of potassium sorbate to the Jell-O mix.
And now on the clock, it's the Cardinals.
You can also use 2 teaspoons of fresh lemon juice.
Okay, next up, it's the Seahawks on the clock.
Now, I find it easier to use a 2-cup glass measuring cup to pour the gummy mix in.
Okay, the Chiefs are on the clock now.
Spray the oil in the molds. With this recipe, it's not necessary, but if you prefer to use it, it won't ruin them. So start pouring your gummy mix in each mold.
The Saints are now on the clock.
You can find these molds on Amazon. I think I paid about $10 for 3, and I'll make sure I leave that link below.
The Saints are on the clock now. What direction will they go?
54 gummies. You may get more or less depending on the size and shape of your molds. Now, these gummies are not going in the refrigerator. If you prefer your gummies to go in the refrigerator, that's fine, and I'll show you the difference between the two when they're done. After filling all the molds, I set the gummies aside for 2 hours. After
The Chiefs on the clock now.
I left on the countertop. As you can see, they easily pop out of the molds and have a nice gummy texture. They actually came out perfect. Now, these are the gummies I put in the refrigerator. And as you can see, these came right out of the molds as well. The texture on these are a little firmer, but that's because they're cold. So if you leave them on the countertop or in the refrigerator, you'll get the same results. Start placing those gummies on a plate of cookie sheets.
Now the Seahawks are on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
And oh my gosh, these gummies came out perfect. So make sure you don't forget to like this video and share it on your social media platforms. And if you're interested,
here we go. The Cardinals now on the clock.
Add half a cup of granulated or fine sugar to a small bowl, and then add half a tablespoon of citric acid and stir until combined. Then add a few gummies to the bowl and cover them with sugar, and then add them back to the plate. When you're finished, you have some potent cannabis-infused gummies. Thank you guys for sticking around and watching my whole video. And if you are going to make these cannabis gummies for your friends, let me know how they
Okay,
turn out.
here we go. The Raiders now on the clock.
And I'll just show you how these came out. Look, they're all gummy form. And remember, we did not put these in the refrigerator. I left these on the counter.
All right, now on the clock, the Texans.
They have the gummy texture. So, if you enjoyed watching this video, make sure you share it on your social media platforms to support my channel. And give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll
The
see you guys
Jaguars are now on the clock. Now we turn to the Eagles. They're on the clock. Okay, here we go. The Jets now on the clock.
And polarize it, that would be the mix, like a strand that's minty, kind of lemony. And what's one of your favorite dishes that your mom makes?
That's a good question. One of my favorite things growing up that my mom didn't necessarily make, but we always used to get, was baklava.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm guessing, and that could be my birthday cake. I like baklava more than I like cake.
Oh my God, this is what I'm into this. Cool. Let's cook.
Now that we got the menu covered, I wanted to get some really, really high quality cannabis honey to cook with. So I'm here to meet up with Paul Hikimi. He's an urban beekeeper with honeylove.org.
The Dolphins now on the clock.
Honey, and then Rye's gonna infuse that honey with cannabis.
Do you have any extra candles I can throw in the smoker so we can,
Yeah, we actually do. Can we use weed smoke for that?
Yeah, we can experiment with that, yeah.
We've got some banana.
All right, it's the Panthers now on the clock.
Smoker, and we're gonna use that to smoke those bees and keep them from stinging us.
The way it starts is it's a brood's nest, right? So the brood nest is...
All right, the Broncos are now on the clock.
Babies. That's all they're doing is just making babies, day in and day out. That queen's laying 1,500 eggs a day. And, and bees die every 30 days. So, they have high rotation in here.
All right, on the clock now, the Cowboys.
Structures ever built in the world. The honeycomb. Yeah, the honeycomb. It's amazing how strong that structure is.
So, how do you know when you want to harvest honey from it?
When it's completely capped and sealed. See all that honey that's uncapped right there? See that honey?
All right, next up, the Colts are on the clock.
Honey and go inside with them, right? And then extract it from there. You guys want to take their
On the clock now, it's the Chargers, and time is ticking.
Very cool. Taking that inside his house. Jesus.
Just literally just cut it right out. There you go. I'm just going to literally just cut it up.
All right, the Bears are now on the clock.
And then we're going to take it, we're just going to pour it over the cheesecloth, and the honey will seep through the wax. Look at all that honey.
Twist it and bring it out.
Yeah, that looks good. There we go.
That's called honey, man. You know what I call this? Liquid gold.
Well, and in a way, this is a lot like just making concentrate with cannabis because you're leaving behind all the stuff that you don't want, which is this wax.
This is the next part, huh?
Yeah, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to infuse 10 grams of this cannabis into coconut oil, and so it's actually going to infuse into the fat of the coconut oil.
The Lions on the clock now.
Yeah, it just goes right on top.
So do we have to mix that into the weed at all?
No, so once we put this into the hot water, it'll just melt through, and then just tap this up, and then we'll just drop it into the water. We'll just leave that in there for 2.5 hours, I'll say, just to make sure we get a very thorough infusion, and then we'll be ready to go and strain all the flour material out of it. You can see it's melted fully and blended with the weed here. This is fully melted, so I'm just going to dump it here through our strainers. So we have a wire mesh strainer and then cheesecloth on top of it, and that'll just make sure we catch all this plant matter. Once I filter this,
the Browns on the clock now.
Take the oil and add it to our honey.
The Falcons on the clock now. Let's see who they have their eye on.
Man, that is beautiful. I like seeing this bear get
The football team now on the clock. Let's see what they do.
Right to the top.
Gorgeous.
Man, did you hit that one out of the park today?
Dude.
Wow, look at that.
There we go.
Perfect.
Can I lick this?
Go for it, man.
Definitely like that. How is it?
Tastes so good.
Yeah?
I mean, it has just a nice flavor, aroma to it, you know?
Whoa, yeah.
From the hive to the table.
All right, it's now the Vikings' turn. They're up.
Honey bear, and we can use
The
that.
Buccaneers are on the clock now. The Bengals now on the clock. Let's see what they do.
We're going to Tosha. It's an Iranian market. They have a lot of imported and local ingredients. Look at all this amazing stuff. So we need to get the yogurt. This is Lebanon. So we're going to smoke. That's the one we're going to smoke because it's thick and it can hold itself. Right. Oh, shit. Something fell. So this is the mousse here we're going to use for the smoked Lebanon. Shiloto? Yeah, how much do we need? One packet, yeah? Yeah, we're just doing a half sheet. Okay. One of these for the baklava syrup. What else is on our list? Then we just need the saffron and we're done. Let's do it. So we need to go to the front for the
The
saffron.
Patriots on the clock right now. Let's see who they have their eye on. Okay, here we go. The 49ers now on the clock. The 49ers now on the clock. The Patriots are now on the clock. And now we turn to the Bengals. Their selection.
Merci. We're going to taste it right now. That sounds great. Oh my God. Merci. Hold up, Bess. It's going to be so good.
All right, next up, the Bucks are on the clock.
Set up everything you're going to need to cook the meal and to infuse everything with cannabis. All right, get ready to feast your eyes on this. Boom. Whoa. This is what we're working with.
The Vikings are now on the clock.
Yeah, it's a shit ton of weed, exactly. That's exactly the metric amount of weed that's in here. It's a shit ton, right?
All this stuff is cannabis in all its different forms.
So we've got like 3 dozen different kinds of flours. Those can be used to cook with anything.
Okay, here we go. Washington now on the clock.
Olive oil. We've got infused terpenes. We've got crystal THC and CBD, and in oil form.
We have this beautiful CBD honey. It's ready to go. We can use this in just about anything.
I want to live in here.
I know, right? We do live in here. That's the craziest thing about it.
For the meal today, some roasted chicken, stuffed with herbs and herb butter, some baklava with hella weed. Like everything. That's like your birthday cake, so it needs to really go big.
All right, cool. I wanted to check in on Alex, who's preparing a fire for tonight's meal. Deb and Alex work as a team.
There's something about this way of cooking that everybody inherently...
It's the Lions now on the clock.
Kind of all come from that.
Yeah.
You can't
Okay, the Bears are on the clock now.
So you develop that really nice flavor and get the fall off the bone texture, you know? Get my trusty blow poked out.
All right, so just basically like a straw with a fork on the end, so I just jam it under here,
That's right, yeah, just get it in there. And it brings oxygen straight to the flame, so it really sets it off. Yeah, you're a natural.
Okay, the Chargers up now. They're on the clock. The Colts are now on the clock.
What do you guys need?
Okay, we want to stuff the chicken with flour.
The Cowboys now on the clock.
So, do you have anything in mind that would work inside of the chicken?
I mean, you said the word schmaltz earlier, so maybe we go kosher kush?
Yeah, I think let's keep it kosher.
All right. We're gonna
On the clock now. It's the Broncos. Time is ticking.
Do you want to grind it up at all? Or
No,
just...
it can be whole. I think this is so nice.
Yeah, that's better than California OG. You know?
The Panthers now on the clock.
Right, there's a little insert. Yeah, there's a little hole. So you just stick a couple lemon rinds, some savory, some of that kosher kush, and just put it right in the butt. That's not the butt. Okay, so we're gonna loosen the skins. I'm just basically using my fingers, and there is it's just removing this little bit of fat and getting under. And we'll stuff it with some of these herbs and Lemon peel, and then also we're gonna put the cannabis leaves. Ooh. Nestle it under these babies. Are you perfect timing? Ready for the fire? So these will just hang. They're good to go.
They're gonna hang.
Ready?
Got about 4 hours above the fire. And you can see now it's working already. The skin is bubbling, and you can see the fat rendering.
They're pretty soft. I mean, you can actually see like flour sort of poking out from the butts of some of these chickens.
Yeah.
All right, the Dolphins are now on the clock.
So we're gonna mortar and pestle the rub, 2 cloves of garlic, some Himalayan salt. Go ahead and just bake it out. It's getting thick and creamy. So that's perfect. Let's add some of the herbs, some thyme, and some savory. And then we have these cannabis leaves here. Go ahead and add the rest, okay? What is this like beautiful array of already? Bring it over here. This is our spice scrap. Anything lemony, we need lemon. Ooh, that one's nice. This one? That one's good. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's a little bit lemony.
Okay.
Yeah.
You see how beautiful the color is? It's so nice and green because we worked it slowly. Right. Weed corn.
The Ravens are now on the clock.
We should go give this to Alex now so he can tie it up on a string. Nailed it. Nailed it.
And the Eagles on the clock now. Let's see what direction they go.
We're going to take a field trip outside and do this experiment. I'm going to cold smoke the lemon.
All right, the Jaguars are now on the clock. On the clock now, it's the Texans. Time is ticking.
And then, Alex, you want to bring some coals over?
Coals?
And now on the clock, it's the Raiders.
Ooh, that smells so good. So all this weed is now burning. And what's going to happen is... So you see all that? It's green. You can even look at it. The weed. Smoke is green.
The Cardinals on the clock now. What direction will they go? The Seahawks are on the clock now.
Does it taste good?
It tastes delicious, yeah.
Oh, shit. That's intense.
This is my birthday party.
The Chiefs are up now. Let's see what direction they go.
I wanted to infuse an entire animal with weed, and I wanted some of my favorite people to come through. Thank you guys so much for coming to my birthday party. You don't have that.
Hello?
So, yeah, don't forget me myself. We sit to the count back and forth. So going in and out. You know what I mean? He's drafted too.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's cool.
It's the Saints now on the clock.
Yeah, so I see some draft.
All right.
Yep. Let's go looking.
It's so. I got Brady as my QB. I need to start getting me some linemen though for some protection.
Yeah, I'm doing right now. My DT said I ain't got no quarterback yet. I'm going to get Cap.
What did you get? What did you get first?
I got all D linemen. My whole D. I got Jordan. I got Aaron Donald. I got Allen, and I got Reader. My whole defensive line set. Then I got my center, my left guard, and my left tackle. I'm gonna get my right guard and my right tackle right now. And my trenches is back, and I got my running back. I think Chubb.
Okay.
So I'm setting my trenches. I ain't got no receivers or corners yet. I'm setting my trenches.
I'm about to build all that now. I ain't getting no. I got one corner.
Yeah, the gang on the trenches. I'm getting all my trenches together.
One corner, one linebacker, and one defensive tackle. But I got Zeke, of course. And I got as far as my wide receivers, who I got?
But we did have different ways of dosing it. So like
I got decent wide receivers. I got top-notch wide receivers. So, and like I said, I got buff. Oh, motherfucker took the left guard I was gonna get.
Yeah, I got a right guard, right tackle. My line solidified. Then I'm going to go and get my quarterback. I'm going to go and get Cap. My quarterback.
Tom Brady, Keenan Allen,
We used that one because it was kind
Demario Davis, Fletcher Cox, Casey Hayward,
All right, now it's the
Ezekiel
Cardinals'
Elliott,
turn. They're up.
Adam Thielen, and Tyler Lockett.
And the potatoes were wrapped in aluminum and thrown right on the coals.
Alright, let me go slow for my next pick. I see you in a minute.
All right, it's on.
Cold smoke on the Levnet. Right. And use about 3 ounces of
it was a pineapple kush.
pineapple kush. A little bit fruity. To smoke
Literally
it.
set fire to 3 ounces.
The Raiders on the clock now. What direction will they go?
Eat it.
Oh my God, thank you guys so much. See you guys. Long appetit. And it cooked perfectly from like bottom to top. It's all good. You can eat so much of this Spanish food. It's amazing. The yogurt smoked out. You could really taste it. Like it reminded me of like some sour yogurt you're making back home. You know what I mean? Like
I took a little bite of everything. So hopefully I'm not too much. But the flavor was very good. Whatever happened.
Okay, the Texans up now. They're on the clock.
welcome back to my catching team, guys.
On the clock now, the Jaguars.
So, you know,
Okay, the Eagles on the clock now.
the 10 vibes are good. We're at 10. I might too. I'm cold now. I feel great.
Dinner was
The
delicious.
Jets now on the clock.
We're going to work on the baklava next.
We're gonna have some THC in there too, right? Because we have honey.
80 milligrams. Going in. No stopping us. Start layering the phyllo. Last, you're going to add the rose water because if you add it early, it will disintegrate.
Okay, the Ravens are on the clock now.
And then a layer of pistachio. That sounds great. Yeah, so you got like a good big crust on the bottom. The base, so it holds all the butter and the syrup. Right. So I'm going to do 3 layers of this. You're just finishing the last layer. And then I'm going to cut it. Oh, you cut it beforehand?
Now the Dolphins are on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
20 minutes.
Now we turn to the Panthers. They're on the clock.
That we got at the market, right? In Tosha. And I'm just going to put a little bit. And this is our honey, sugar, simple syrup to go over the baklava. Yes. That was beautiful. Yeah, right? Okay, we're just ready to serve this. So take one. You kind of eat this with your fingers.
Oh shit, that looks amazing.
This is a super concentrated baklava, a wheat baklava with pistachios and THC honey.
And coconut sugar ground up with the pistachios.
Every teaspoon is 8 milligrams.
Yes.
Great.
So you can up the ante a little bit.
We did have larger pieces at first. We decided to cut them into triangles. So now
Okay, next up, it's the Broncos on the clock.
Happy birthday.
Wow, that like brings back like a memory. Yeah, I already smashed mine, so I'm gonna take this opportunity to grab some of this extra crust that's lying up here.
I really like the rose water tasted in there, and it's so good. It mixes really, really nicely with that butter on top. Buttery and light and dense at the same time. So it's like, it's awesome.
You know, this has been a really special night for me because not only is it my birthday, but we got to experiment with something that I've wanted to try for a long time, which is like, infusing the entire animal. The fusion, I think, of cannabis and
The Cowboys on the clock now. What direction will they go?
This final piece right here were exceptional. Guys, seriously, bravo. You guys crushed it daily. Happy birthday to you.
The Colts now on the clock. Let's see what they do. Bears are now on the clock.
So I have some simple syrup being made, which is just equal parts sugar and water.
All right, on the clock now, the Lions. And the Browns on the clock now. Let's see what direction they go.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Matt. I am headed to the Black Hat to meet Daniel K. Nelson, one of the co-founders and one of LA's leading mixologists. He's also invited me.
And now we turn to the WFT. It's their selection.
I heard we're having a cannabis cocktail party.
That is correct. We're going to have our cannabis food menu and a cannabis cocktail menu.
Very nice. Why don't we start with a few cocktails and then we'll get to the cannabis?
The Vikings are on the clock now. What direction will they go?
Light and refreshing, pretty classic LA cocktail called a Moscow Mule. So, got some fresh lime. We're going to do about 2 ounces of vodka. This is some fresh ginger juice, just to give it a little bit more spice. And then we're going to top it with some ginger beer.
Is this something that you would make a cannabis infused drink out of, or?
Absolutely. The ginger plays really well with a lot of cannabis.
Okay, here we go. The Bengals now on the clock.
For cannabis, because vodka doesn't have too much flavor at all. You actually really get kind of the herbal flavors and whatever notes and stuff from the flower, go directly into the vodka. There you go. Moscow Mule.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers.
It tastes very familiar. This is probably one of the best I've had.
Cool. This is a fun little cocktail called a Hemingway Daiquiri. It was created in Cuba for Hemingway. Its nickname is also his nickname, the Papa Doble. So it's got double the amount of rum.
Okay, it's the Patriots on the clock now.
Yeah. It's got lime, grapefruit, and a little bit of simple
All right,
syrup.
it's now the 49ers' turn. They're up. And now on the clock, it's the 49ers.
And again, is the Papa
All right,
Doble.
next up, the Patriots are on the clock.
So what do you have planned in regards
The Bengals are on the clock now.
A lot of them are going to be based around classics, similar to the ones I was making here, but they're obviously going to be using marijuana in different ways. The cocktails themselves would be really interesting, but actually the process I think you'll find pretty fascinating. Because it's easy to do at home.
Actually, that might be my new favorite.
Nice.
All of this was really good.
Cool. Glad you liked it. Well, I think we need to get that inspiration.
Okay, it's the Bucs now on the clock. And now on the clock, it's the Vikings.
Tell me the story.
Buds and Roses has been around since 2006. It was one of the first dispensaries registered in Los Angeles. We cultivate our own medicine so that we can keep a close eye on how it's produced. We can also have the right strains at the right times so it meets everyone's needs. We just try to bring quality products, care, and focus on the patient.
It shows.
I can show you in the back where we grow all the product.
That sounds awesome. Who is this? These are our roomful of Joey strain, bred by Cushman Genetics. It's the favorite strain of the Unconventional Foundation for Autism, which we work with very closely. And we named this strain after a young patient named Joey Perez. So
All right, next up, the football team on the clock. All right, it's the Browns now on the clock.
Size, but we're not complaining. It's not that often that you get plants that two people can't get their arms around. They can't go on.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Definitely a labor of love. You can finger fuck my bud.
Okay, it's the Lions now on the clock. The Bears are up. Let's see what direction they go.
What would be your best way to describe where the sense of different strains come from?
Cannabis has over 400 constituents. Cannabinoids, terpenes, terpenoids, catabolic acids, and they all go to make up. THC is only one component of it. And it's the different levels of all these 400 constituents that makes up not only the flavor profile, not only the smell profile, but also the actual medicinal benefits. It is all about wellness.
And now we turn to the Colts. It's their selection. Okay, it's the Cowboys now on the clock.
Prohibition has actually accelerated cannabis breeding because if people didn't have to hide away in a closet, we might have been 50 years behind in the actual breeding of cannabis because, everybody was comfortable with it. It was out in the open.
The Broncos are on the clock now.
has really accelerated the actual breeding of cannabis. It's just behind the door, I think they're illegal, right? And totally legal, you know? Yeah. These plants are as happy, we're all happy because we're not hungry for them. The neon outside.
That's right.
Neon outside, that's right. Boy, we come a long way. Hot soul here.
Congratulations, you guys. This has been an amazing experience.
So what are you guys looking for today?
You definitely have my attention.
Yeah.
I would say all of the above.
Nice. Okay.
So are there any strains that you would recommend as far as preparing a dish?
This is our silverback grape ape, so it's similar to strawberry banana, more fruits, but that's kind of how you come up with the names of what it reminds you of and what it looks like. So
That's
definitely very
Really
unique.
nice.
That'd be good in a cocktail.
That would be great.
Yeah. But then there's other strains like this Oregon Silver. It's what we consider like really danky.
And the Panthers on the clock now. Let's see what direction they go.
Compare that with something more savory or.
I'm making a steak.
Oh wow.
So in that, like you said, cheesy, kind of richness, that umami sense, that thick flavor.
That's great.
So put that one to the side.
And then here's another flavor. It's our Chernobyl. It's a very strong sativa. It's definitely unique.
So that's
I'm almost thinking like a Mandarin salad. Crazy how like you bring out a strain and all of a sudden it's like dessert, drink, steak. Now that my brain is on like this meal that's about to go down, it's just like I think this is gonna be a 50-course meal by the end of this.
Okay, next up, it's the Dolphins on the clock.
There you go, guys.
The Ravens are up now. Let's see what direction they go. And now we turn to the Jets. It's their selection. The Eagles are now on the clock.
Oh wow, this place is amazing.
Pretty fun deal. There it is. You see the ocean.
So how do you get cannabis into the cocktails?
There's a fun little trick with a nitrous infusion.
So I know cannabinoids bind very easily with fats and lipids.
The Jaguars are up now. Let's see what direction they go.
Is this such a special process with the nitrous?
This process, what it does is it agitates the cannabis and the plant matter on a microscopic level, and it literally forcibly infuses the active chemicals into the alcohols. The thing with THC is that you can't just eat buds and you won't get any sort of psychoactive effect. So what you have to do is called decarboxylating, which activates it. So it's a fancy word for heating it up at a low temperature for a pretty significant amount of time. And let's start with the wet card. First thing is we got to start with dosage.
All right, now it's the Raiders' turn. They're up.
Alcohol. That'll get you the effects from the alcohol, but also the effects from the THC without too much of either one. Kind of imbalance.
The Cardinals are now on the clock.
Like trial and
error. That would be the best way to put it.
That can be a very interesting process.
This is a really nice lemon dry gin. We've got some vodka, rum, and tequila. Let's start with the vodka so that we can really, kind of taste the ganja. Here we go. So now these whippers, they don't hold that much liquid. So I'm going to measure out about 200.
On the clock now, it's the Seahawks. Time is ticking.
Pour that in.
On the clock now, the Chiefs.
Vodka, weigh out 1/3 of eighth of MJ. Again, dosage is very important. It's important to have an accurate scale. You can already smell it. Like weed. Less vodka. Yeah. So this is pretty straightforward. So take one of those bad boys. And what you have to do actually is you're supposed
It's
to...
the Saints now on the clock.
You have to release the gas.
The Saints are now on the clock.
The process is already happening. And we don't need pressure anymore. So you could just release this gas or...
Do as well.
Yeah, do as well.
So how did you come up with this and what exactly do you call it?
Well, I didn't quite come up with it. I came across this kind of infusion technique being used for different herbs. And I figured it was a great way to get marijuana in it. And, Green Dragon's kind of an overarching term for any kind of ganja infusion. So this is our second charge.
Okay, the Chiefs are on the clock now.
I definitely suggest letting it sit for a minute or two. Then open it up, and we'll start with our wet decarb process, which I'm using a double boiler. So this is a delicate way to heat up the alcohol because we need a decarb.
Okay, next up, it's the Seahawks on the clock.
The alcohol, the active THC is not.
Okay. What's the temperature you ideally want to reach with the alcohol?
Around 200 degrees.
How long does it stay at that temperature?
Takes about 45 minutes. All right, this has been sitting for a little bit.
And now on the clock, it's the Cardinals.
You can see the liquid is really green. So we're heating this to a level that activates the THC, but there is no combustion happening. So there's no ash and there's no creation of carcinogens. It's a very healthy way to consume, and it's also a great way to consume the dosage. But let's see, I think the wet decarb is just about done. There we go.
It almost seems like this is reduced quite a bit.
The Raiders now on the clock.
So whatever has been lost in the double boiler, you want to bring up to volume.
Okay.
Now we've got some cheesecloth. This is the Green Dragon. We've got the decarb cannabis, and we've done the nitrous infusion. The best thing to do is you want to strain out the leftover cannabis, which is no longer active and does not have any use. And we're adding, obviously, some of the virgin-based spirit that we started with. Definitely want to extract every bit.
That's the drop that counts.
There we go. Gotta get it out, man. So, now this is our wet decarb Green Dragon. Here we go.
Oh wow, it has a way different aroma to it.
That is pretty heavy on the nose. Let's try the taste, right?
Don't have to threaten me with a good time.
All right. Cheers. Let's try this. Ooh. Wow.
Okay, the Jaguars are now on the clock.
That's probably the best vodka I've ever tasted.
That is amazing, and it does not have anywhere near the amount of flavors that I was thinking was going to come across.
It tastes like it's exactly what it's like.
Yes.
All right, next up, the Jets are on the clock.
Off to a good start.
On the clock now, the Ravens.
See what they're going to be paired with, like now that we have a base. Everyone's here now.
On the clock now, it's the Dolphins. Time is ticking. Okay, the Panthers are on the clock now. Now the Broncos are on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
So in this case, we're going to use some lemon juice.
It's the Cowboys now on the clock.
Sugar and water. So this is basically
Okay, here we go. The Colts now on the clock.
So you get the fresh citrus with kind of the piney notes from the marijuana. It's awesome. All right, guys. So we have our first cocktail. It's a French 75. So has anybody had cannabis cocktails before? Yeah. How was your experience with it?
I'm looking forward to trying yours because the stuff that I've tried before didn't taste that great. So I hope you help get it tasted a little bit more.
And the Chargers now on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
Yeah. Cheers. Happy 420. Thank you, Tyler, for growing. Thank you, guys.
Well done. Very well done.
Significantly better than the last having cannabis in it.
On the clock now, the Bears.
We got to start cooking. We got to make cocktails. And I'm going to start on the steaks. And we'll have salad down in a second.
When you're adding cannabis, what do you think? Like
The Lions on the clock now. What direction will they go? Now we turn to the Browns. They're on the clock.
And it's also alcohol, so it goes in the bloodstream.
Washington is now on the clock.
It's affected by cannabis cocktails much quicker than cannabis edibles.
Okay, here we go. The Vikings on the clock now.
What's up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to make super gummies. A lot of videos and recipes make this sound super hard, but it's actually really easy to do. And all you need is cannabis infused coconut oil, 1 6-ounce box of flavored Jello and flavor, and 1 1-ounce box of unflavored gelatin. So like I said for this recipe, you need to already have the coconut oil infused. So if you don't...
How to make cannabis infused coconut oil.
Getting that from YouTube.
On the clock now, it's the Buccaneers.
Coconut oil to be used in edible gummies.
Warning, this channel is meant for viewers 21 plus and is created for educational and documentary purposes only. Beginner Buzz does not condone illegal activity, certainly does not sell anything. So don't even ask. Seriously.
The wind is blowing through her hair. We like to head out on the road. And you know we don't really care.
All right, next up, the Bengals are on the clock.
How's it going, everyone? Well, another week is coming on. We're on to the next step of making edibles here on the Green Buds. As you may remember, last week we learned how to decarboxylate cannabis in order to activate the THC inside our buds so that it can be absorbed via ingestion. Now it came time to decide what we were going to make.
On the clock now, it's the Patriots.
So what
The 49ers on the clock now. What direction will they go?
Well, the most important ingredient is what makes our gummies.
The Patriots on the clock right now. Let's see who they have their eye on.
We need some cannabis-infused coconut oil. So let's get into it.
The Bucks on the clock. Let's see who they have their eye on. All right, it's now the Vikings team. They're up.
All right, guys, so we've got to admit, we've been having a little bit of fun during these last 2 weeks as we use our end product in a different way. Usually we find some way to light up, whether it's with a dry pipe, a bong, or any other number of ways. Wanting to explore a little, we thought, what better way to mix things up than to make some edibles? So that's exactly what we started. One thing about this, though, don't expect to just whip some up real quick. When it comes down to it, this is a several hours long process. And that's if you don't break up the steps and spread them out over a few days like we did. Decarboxylation can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 8 hours, depending on the method and intensity of heat.
The football team now on the clock. Let's see what they do.
Cannabis-infused coconut oil to be used in edible gummies. And this process only added more time to the whole ordeal. Of course, first we had to gather the supplies necessary, which consisted of a double boiler. We used a pot and a glass bowl with lid, decarboxylated cannabis.
The Browns are now on the clock.
And cooking twine. Remember,
The Lions are on the clock now.
Anything with cannabis.
All right, the Bears are now on the clock.
And make a small batch.
All right, now on the clock, the Chargers.
A bunch of your stash, only to mess things up and leave you with nothing to get you lifted. For us, we tried 3 different methods of decarboxylation, so we have a bit more than we would suggest, but each jar is only a ½ ounce of material.
As promised, we decided to keep the decarboxylated cannabis.
All right, next up, the Colts are on the clock.
Which method was most
All right, on the clock now, the Cowboys.
Either way, our infused coconut oil is going to be an even 1-to-1 ratio. What this means is, regardless of how much you want to make, you're going to need exactly the same amount of cannabis as you do coconut oil.
All right, the Broncos are now on the clock.
A cup of material and a ½ a cup of coconut oil. Someone who may
All right, it's the Panthers now on the clock.
They would need 1 cup of coconut oil as well. With all that ready to go, it was time to get ready for what was soon to come. So, because we didn't want to deal with the hassle of straining the cannabis out of the oil later on, this is where the cheesecloth came in. What you're going to want to do is unroll and cut off the nut to fold over a few times, but not so much that the cloth absorbs an excess of oil.
Once that is done, fold it over a few times, leaving a nice space to place your cannabis. Another note here, make sure you have enough layers to ensure that no cannabis will pop through the holes. Simply place the decarboxylated cannabis on top of the
Dolphins now on the clock.
Similar to a burrito. We folded the shoulder.
All right, the Ravens are now on the clock.
Before rolling the rest up, just like you would a joint. Rather than lick it to seal things up, though, this is where the cooking comes into play. Simply wrap up the bundle and tie a knot, making sure things won't come
The Jets now on the clock. Let's see what they do.
It was time for the next step.
All right, it's the Eagles now on the clock.
Well, it was finally time to start cooking. So we grabbed the double boiler and filled it with as much water as we could before it hit the bottom of the glass bowl.
The Jaguars are now on the clock.
Before turning it
The
down.
Texans are now on the clock.
Usually low on the stove. Once that's up to heat, it's time to add your 2 simple ingredients. Like we previously mentioned, for us, it was a half cup of decarboxylated cannabis, which was now wrapped up nice and neat inside our cheesecloth, and a half a cup of coconut oil. So in the bowl they went.
The oil will slowly melt before turning clear. This is where things get really interesting. The infusing process is a slow and gradual process. Essentially what this means is that you must be patient. Turning things up higher in order to go quicker will only destroy the same terpenes you're hoping to later enjoy and potentially even render your end product absolutely worthless. In the end, the double boiler takes anywhere between 6 and 8 hours, making it rather time-consuming. Regardless, you're going to want to stay patient and vigilant. You don't want things stuck in the same spot.
Okay, here we go. The Raiders now on the clock.
Or even burn the oil after a while. So make sure you stay near the pot and stir it frequently throughout the entire process.
Okay, here we go. The Cardinals now on the clock.
As you're boiling water for hours on end, the evaporation process will eventually take its toll, leaving you with absolutely nothing to keep the temperature regular.
Now the Seahawks are on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
212 degrees Fahrenheit. So, anything being cooked in a double boiler will be limited to this temperature.
Once the water is gone, though, your oil won't have a barrier from the flame, meaning that you could end up burning things. So make sure you add water when needed. Remember, make sure you stir frequently, and we also flip the wrapped cannabis about every 15 minutes.
The Chiefs on the
clock
now.
Stayed saturated throughout the process. In the end, we went the entire 8 hours before finally calling it quits, but we weren't quite done. Although we did a good job with the cheesecloth, we wanted to make sure that the oil we would later consume was as free of contaminants as humanly possible.
The Saints are on the clock now. What direction will they go?
Fortunately for us, this only took the use of a coffee filter. Folding one into a cone-like shape, we placed it into
All right, on the clock now, the Saints.
And poured our oil inside. Personally, we warmed the jars up with some hot water before this step, as we didn't want to pour the hot oil inside of a cooler jar, only for it to crack and make an incredibly difficult mess to clean up. As the cheesecloth did its job, most of the oil...
The Chiefs are up now. Let's see what direction they go. The Seahawks are on the clock now.
Just a little more to go. In the end, we needed between 2 and 3 filters per jar.
The Cardinals on the clock now. What direction will they go?
You simply seal the jar with a banded lid before throwing it in the fridge to cool. Of course, the refrigerator helps extend the oil's 2-month life, but it's probably best to use it within this time period just to be safe. Now, although we decided to use a double boil for this, there are other methods.
And now on the clock, it's the Raiders.
Available. In the end, we simply went this way because the double boiler ensures that the temperatures of the oil can't get too hot, thereby limiting the potential for human error.
All right, the Jaguars are now on the clock.
You can either use a crock pot or just a saucepan. For the crock pot, simply place the wrapped cannabis and oil.
Now we turn to the Eagles. They're on the clock.
Making sure to stir frequently. Likewise, the process is similar for the saucepan. Just throw your cannabis.
Okay, here we go. The Jets now on the clock.
Ensure that you
The Ravens are now on the clock.
Once the time is up, simply strain and done. One more tip worth putting out there: no matter which method you use, try not to squeeze out the cheesecloth throughout the process. This doesn't do anything for the potency and will only add more unnecessary chlorophyll and the taste that comes along with that to your oil. In short, being patient and gentle will ensure that your infused oil comes out the highest quality possible given the circumstances.
All right, the Dolphins are now on the clock.
Just made some THC-infused coconut oil ready to put into, well, whatever the heck we want. For us, we're going to make some gummies, so make sure you tune in next week as we show you...
On the clock now, it's the Broncos. Time is ticking.
Until then, Make sure you guys check out our social media accounts as they're full of additional
The Cowboys now on the clock.
Keep learning, keep
The
growing.
Colts are now on the clock. The Chargers now on the clock. Okay, the Bears are on the clock now. Okay, the Browns on the clock now.
Hello and welcome to the Build a Ball YouTube channel. I'm really excited today because we have a special episode.
Okay, here we go. Washington now on the clock.
And today we're doing that. If you don't know what it is, it's a type of hash. Got a couple of different
The Vikings are now on the clock. The Buccaneers are on the clock now. The Bengals now on the clock. Let's see what they do.
Welcome to True Buds TV for cannabis infused coconut oil 2.0. So we're making it extra potent today, about 4 to 5 ounces of organic coconut oil and a half ounce of decarb cheese. We've got the cheesecloth, of course, and a little foam boiler. We're going to throw the water in there and bring it till the bubbles slightly start going. Looking like that right
The
there.
Patriots are now on the clock. Okay, here we go. The 49ers now on the clock. Okay, it's the Patriots on the clock now. And now we turn to the Bengals. It's their selection.
And today we're going to do it for 4 hours and 45 minutes. It said you can do it from 3 to 6 hours, 2 hours in. We're just going to keep stirring it, keeping an eye on it. Make sure you're there for a round so it doesn't boil over. Getting there, 45 seconds left. Let's get that cheesecloth ready. You gotta fold it over at least once.
All right, next up, the Bucks are on the clock. The Vikings are on the clock now. What direction will they go?
It still just held it there. We're gonna drain that through. Just let it go right through the cheesecloth. And I love these plastic spatulas because they allow you to get everything out. Go ahead and scrape that. Getting there, we're about to have that oil, so get medicated. Set that to the side, give it a squeeze. Keep squeezing it out, twist it, get it loose, twist it in. See all that coming out? That's that extra, that's probably the most potent stuff.
And the Browns are on the clock now. Let's see what direction they go.
It's like a big, it's like a tablespoon. Nice size tablespoon. To reiterate, I usually don't do it like this. I'll put it with chocolate, toast, mix it.
It's the Lions now on the clock.
This method is so you can kind of see what we're working with.
The Bears are now on the clock. On the clock now, it's the Chargers, and time is ticking.
See how this does. Let's just say this was the best edible recipe I have made yet to date, and it got me feeling extremely well, actually. The most lit I've been on any edible in a while. Probably should have stuck to the first tablespoon and not done the second one, but you see me here. I'm enjoying myself. I'm vibing out, and I shot this video.
The Colts now on the clock. Let's see what they do. The Cowboys on the clock now. What direction will they go?
Yeah, the coconut in there. Let's go check that out. I highly recommend giving this recipe a shot. Something similar. I really like the small coconut batch here. That's that, baby. Catch us on the next one. Let me know what you think when you try this. Drop a comment. Let me know what you want to see on the next recipe. Let's make some smoothies with this. Let's have some fun. And as always,
Okay, next up, it's the Broncos on the clock. The Panthers now on the clock. Now the Dolphins are on the clock. Who do they have their eye on? Okay, the Ravens are on the clock now.
Great. So, do we like smoke a J or something while that's going? I mean, I don't know what the plan is, but it seems like usually the time
The Jets now on the clock.
Yeah. Here in Seattle, everybody's about
And the Eagles on the clock now. Let's see what direction they go.
oil, you name it. Well, I'm about to meet the folks over at Craft Elixirs who bring craft to cannabis, and they're going to give me a tour of their production facility, and then later they're going to show me what weed hospitality in the Emerald City is all about. Let's get into it.
On the clock now, the Jaguars. And the Texans now on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
The elixirs are really, we made these to be for making cocktails. The first one that I have is Seattle Simple. It's just a basic, simple syrup. People like to use them for making a tea or like to make a mojito. You use it to sweetening anything you want to sweeten.
The other ones have some flavor to them, it looks like.
Yeah, we have our Ballard Beet, which is our blueberry orange. This is probably one of our most popular flavors. This is one is our habanero syrup. We call this one our Capitol Hill Heat. On the craft tab, you can see the grower that we work with.
Who's Buffalo Bill?
Buffalo Bill, the name of the strain.
And how many?
The Raiders on the clock now. What direction will they go?
One capsule is $5. Yeah.
It makes me think of like an Asian hot sauce.
All right, now it's the Cardinals' turn. They're up.
So this is about 5 right here, ballpark?
Well, that's virgin because you can't consume any cannabis inside.
Oh, okay. How did you get started doing craft elixirs?
When the rules changed.
All right, the Seahawks are now on the clock.
Recreational business, I wanted to be a part of it, and I wanted to make something that you can do over and over again. As we've been selling them, I'm hearing from our customer all these other ways that they're using them. It's been really exciting.
All right, the Chiefs are now on the clock.
People say something like, "Oh, I used the Verdita Dragon, and we marinated our pork in it. We made these fantastic pork tacos."
They're pretty versatile.
They're very versatile. You can do a lot with our syrup. You'll see when we get off-site and get a chance to really try that.
Okay, it's the Saints now on the clock.
Here we've got Calvin. He's going to show us how we make our syrup.
Oh, so today we're making our Ballard Beet elixir. So it's a blueberry orange. How do we get this and this and this and this turn into...
On the clock now, the Chiefs.
To get the basic simple syrup base. We just add in all of our sugar. A lot of sugar. I mean, that's the amount on that. And then we're just going to move this right over here. This machine right here is just going to, like, stir the hell out of the pot. Is that right? Yeah, that has to stir for about 20 straight minutes. We really want to make sure that the sugar is completely dissolved in the water. After that, we'll just toss all this fruit into that sugar water pot and then cook for about an hour and 10 minutes.
On the clock now, it's the Seahawks. The time is ticking.
Down and the blueberries kind of pop a little bit. I mean, it just smells like candy right now. It's incredible.
The Cardinals are now on the clock.
We get all the large fruit chunks out first. We'll take all these oranges later and add them to our freaks by dried dehydrating oil. These are going to turn into those delicious little dried fruit candies. Yeah, so rather than just tossing all this fruit in the compost, we like to repurpose it. Now we need a fine mesh string, and that's going to get all those blueberry seeds.
All right, now it's the Raiders' turn. They're up.
There's so many. All we have to do is infuse it. All right, we got to get the cannabis in there. So how do we do that?
All right, now on the clock, the Texans.
The strain that we're working with is from our grower, Noble Farms, and it's their blueberry strain.
Okay, the Eagles on the clock now.
We've extracted ourselves. Cannabis alcohol extraction is what we do. We use an organic ethanol. So it's the cleanest, it's food-grade oil you can get. It's vegan, it's gluten-free, it's non-GMO, it's kosher.
And now we turn to the Jets. It's their selection.
About 5 pounds of
The Ravens are up now. Let's see what direction they go.
350 grams of THC. This much will make approximately 5,000 bottles of syrup. And one bottle of syrup has about 60 milligrams of THC.
This is like...
Okay, next up, it's the Dolphins on the clock.
How do you get from this super thick, dense product to something that's a little bit more palatable that you can actually pour into it? Yeah, well, with this, all we have to do is just add in like a few drops of our food-grade ethanol into it. So that just kind of allows it to break down into a liquid form so that it doesn't just stick in like large chunks in the syrup. So last step is we just got a little bit of potassium that we're going to add as a stabilizer to this, just right in there. All right, cool. So in 20 minutes, we're going to have some cannabis syrup. Calvin, thank you so much for showing me how it's done. This is really cool. I can't wait to try it.
Since we can't consume the elixirs on site, Jamie's taking me to the Winston House, a cannabis inspired.
Now we turn to the Panthers. They're on the clock.
Some food to infuse with the elixirs.
The Broncos are on the clock now. Okay, it's the Cowboys now on the clock.
Wow, Sebastian, this place is beautiful. What gave you...
And now we turn to the Colts. It's their selection. Okay, the Chargers up now. They're on the clock. The Bears are up now. Let's see what direction they go. All right, it's the Browns now on the clock. And now we turn to the WFT. It's their selection.
What's up, guys? Sarah here, and today I'm going to show you how to make cannabis-infused coconut oil.
And now on the clock, it's the Vikings.
So a lot of people gummies, sauteing with their veggies, all sorts of stuff.
Okay, it's the Bucks now on the clock.
Infused with cannabis, so that whenever you use it, you're getting all the medicinal benefits of that plant. So what I normally do is I take
here we go. The Bengals now on the clock.
So that I know how much cannabis is going to be in that batch of coconut oil, so that I can better figure out dosage when I'm making my edibles. And I'm going to now grind this up a little bit and stick it into a heat-safe dish. Now, you can just get one of these grinders, but, grinding up this much weed in one of these little grinders is a little bit more of a pain, so I'm actually going to use...
All right, next up, the Patriots are on the clock.
I'm going to put this into my jar. What I like to use, though, is a funnel, so that I'm not going to lose anything over the sides while I'm pouring this from the spice grinder into my jar. And then I'm just going to add melted coconut
The
oil.
49ers now on the clock.
On top of there. Enough to at least
On the clock now, it's the Patriots.
If you wanted to
The
dilute
Bengals are
it
on the
a
clock
little bit
now.
more, like have a lower dose edible, then you could fill it up even more with the coconut oil, and then it would be so strong, right? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just put some tinfoil over top of this, and then bake it in the oven at 240 degrees for about 45 to 50 minutes. Okay, so there I go. I've got my cannabis, my coconut oil. I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to stick it in the oven, 240 degrees. And another good thing to have is an oven thermometer. I don't actually have one, so I'm just winging it. But it's good to be able to check the temperature in your oven, and if it gets too hot, you want to open the oven, or maybe it needs to cook a little bit less.
On the clock now, it's the Buccaneers.
Okay, so whatever, it's okay to do it without it. Now I'm just going to stick this in the oven.
Okay, here we go. The Vikings on the clock now.
So my coconut oil has been baking in the oven for about 45-50 minutes. I'm going to take it out of the oven now and strain it.
All right, next up, the football team on the clock.
So I'll put this nut bag kind of like over top of the container that I'm going to use to pour this coconut oil into, but I also like using a funnel again, just so that nothing like drips over the sides and stuff, okay? So using an oven mitt, I'm going to remove that jar.
Now, return to the Browns. They're on the clock.
And like I said, I'm just going to pour it carefully into this nut milk bag. And then what you can do is squeeze that out. Like I showed you in my tincture video, I like to just sort of hang it on the cupboard and let it drain out like that. And this is where the funnel is also really helpful, just in case anything drips down the sides. Okay, so with this batch, it looks like I have just a little over a quarter cup.
On the clock now, the Bears.
Draining.
And the Chargers now on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
I'll figure out what the percentage of THC is in that cannabis, and then I'll know how much THC or milligrams of THC would be per tablespoon. So it's going to help me gauge better how strong the edibles are going to be that I'll be making with this coconut oil. Okay, so I've squeezed out.
Okay, here we go. The Colts now on the clock.
What you could do is use this cannabis and run it through again in some new coconut oil. It would just obviously be a much lower dose. Anyways, there you go. That's how you make your cannabis.
It's the Cowboys now on the clock. Now the Broncos are on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
This is Bill Graham with Microclone Plant Tissue Culture, and I am at monstergardens.com. And you guys get to be the first ones to see this. This is brand new. What we've done is we have taken tissue culture techniques and
It's 40 from Mystery 420. Today we're making cannabis-infused coconut oil.
And the Panthers on the clock now. Let's see what direction they go.
All your different edibles. You can even dump it in your coffee or your tea. Anyways, let's get started. Come check this out. I've got 2 jars of unrefined coconut oil, right? These are 200 grams each. If you're in the States, you're going to want to use 16 ounces or 1 pound. If you're using metric, then you want 454 grams. This is only 400 grams, but it's still okay. I'm going to open up these jars. I'm going to liquefy the oil by putting it in this. What is this? This is a measuring. Anyways, we're going to put it in here. We're going to liquefy it. It's got a pouring spout. That's why I want to use
On the clock now, the Ravens.
Open this up. I've got some spoons here.
All right, next up, the Jets are on the clock.
And yes, I do not have enough room in my kitchen. But regardless of room,
the Eagles are now on the clock.
I'm just going to maybe 30 seconds in the microwave. Let's get all of that goodness out of here. All right. Let's open up the other one.
The Jaguars are up now. Let's see what direction they go in. On the clock now, it's the Texans. And time is ticking.
Use that. There's only 400 grams here. That is right? And it's more or less liquefied, actually. I've had it on the counter for a while.
And now on the clock, it's the Cardinals.
What to do right now is put this in the microwave.
Okay, next up, it's the Seahawks on the clock.
And let's put it for 40 seconds. So, besides coconut oil, and again, I don't know if I said this, there's unrefined and refined. Unrefined has the taste of coconut because it's not processed the same way as the refined coconut oil. So if you don't want the taste of coconut inside your recipe, and depending on the brand you use, so try it, taste it, see if it's super heavy, or if you want that neutral tasting stuff, the refined one is the way to go, however it's processed with different chemicals. So your choice, huh? The other things you're going to need. Cannabis, yep. So this is
okay, the Chiefs are on the clock now.
This is 40 grams of decarboxylate. Now, ground up, huh?
It's the Saints now on the clock.
This is a real fine powder. It will make sure it infuses really well. The next thing that we're going to need, I'm going to take this out. And you're also going to notice that the oil, how you can tell that it's all
the
liquid.
Chiefs on the clock now.
Anyways, I'm sure you can.
Now the Seahawks are on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
If it's a little warm, that's good. Next, this is optional. You don't have to use this. This is lecithin, okay? This is soy lecithin. They also have sunflower. I would prefer sunflower lecithin, and I would prefer liquid form. This is granule form, and the reason liquid
here we go. The Cardinals now on the clock. The Raiders now on the clock.
And so for this particular recipe, what we're going to do is imagine that this is
okay, the Texans up now. They're on the clock.
Of coconut oil. We're going to use, you can use 28 grams, which would be an ounce. I'm going to use all 40. But some of this is shake, right? So if this was all flowers, etc., it would be stronger because some of this is trim and shake and leaves and whatever. I'm going to use the full ounce. I think it will be similar to using an ounce of flour. So I'm going to open this up. Right here, I have 1 teaspoon, and I'm going to take 1 teaspoon of this lecithin. And again, like I said, this is optional. And I'm going to dump it in there, right? And what lecithin does is it increases the bioavailability of cannabis in your system. So what does that mean? When you take your edible, or whatever it might be, right, is your body will absorb the THC, all the different cannabinoids, etc., in your body easier because of this. So let's stir this up a little bit.
Okay, the Jaguars are now on the clock. All right, it's the Eagles now on the clock.
Which is exactly what I'm going to do. So just another 30 seconds. Let's see what happens. And I actually haven't worked with granules before, but I wasn't able to get the liquid kind for this video, so I'm trying the granules. So let's see. Maybe this doesn't work. I mean, anyways, this is optional. You don't have to use this. It will just make your edibles a little bit stronger. We got 10 more seconds, baby. 10, 9.
The Jets now on the clock. Let's see what they do.
Anyway, so like I said, that is optional.
All right, the Ravens are now on the clock.
Stop talking back, you. Anyways, let's bring this out.
Okay, the Panthers on the clock now.
As I'm spinning around, come and check this out.
All right, the Broncos are now on the clock.
So, let's see. I don't know what's going to happen. But what I want to do now, after stirring this and seeing if anything happens, let's try to push it against the side of the glass, see if that breaks it down a little bit. And I don't think it's making a difference, huh? So, okay, no problem. So maybe this lecithin doesn't end up working for us. Maybe it does.
All right, next up, the Colts are on the clock.
What I'm going to do before I have is I'm going to try to distribute this oil. Right? Hopefully, I'm remembering that I should be talking towards the mic.
All right, now on the clock, the Chargers.
Anyway, so I'm going to try to use 4 of them. We'll see, right? And this is why I wanted to use a measuring container that has a spout, so it would be easier to pour in, right? And if you don't pour this evenly, it looks like maybe even 3 containers, huh? And the reason I'm trying to pour it evenly, it doesn't have to be evenly, is it will allow me to decide.
All right, the Bears are now on the clock. All right, on the clock now, the Lions.
Look at the less of them. Some containers less and less. All right, so I'm going to come here. I'm going to try to pull that less than in here. And that's all gravy, right? So we've got 3. And the other challenge that there's only 3 here, there's not that much oil, is the cannabis, right? So I didn't use the 4th one. That's fine. I'm going to take a paper towel. And the reason I'm taking a paper towel is I want to wipe off this spoon because we are going to use the spoon to help us get the cannabis inside these containers. And let's see, we want, if the cannabis overfills, like the liquid isn't able to saturate it, then we will have to use less. Huh? But that's also another reason why I ground this down. So let's take this and boom. Right now I'm just going to go to each, and I'm going to try to put even amount of
Washington is now on the clock.
Spoon, but it's more or less. Huh? So I'm not even going to stir it just yet. I'm going to put a second one.
The Bucks on the clock now. Let's see who they have their eye on. All right, next up, the Bengals are on the clock.
Baby. Third. You can even see the fibers from the branches, right? Because like I said, this was, did I put a third one in here? I don't think so. So let's do that. All right, so now there's 3 in each. Looks like we could get a 4th, right? And it looks like it's going to be okay now. There's the 4th. Here's another one. We're spilling very little, but I think that's pretty good, right? There we go. Excuse that noise. I'll try to remove it in post. This looks like another full one. Actually, let me get this in there and I'll finish what I was saying. All right. I'm not going to throw this
The
away.
Patriots on the clock right now. Let's see who they have their eye on.
Edible or something, huh? So, or even licking with your finger, because this is all decarboxylated. Right? So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to stir this to try to get everything to be full.
All right, it's now the 49ers' turn. They're up. And now on the clock, it's the 49ers. The Patriots are now on the clock. The Bengals now on the clock. Let's see what they do. The Buccaneers are on the clock now.
Saturate as much plant
All right, it's now the Vikings' turn. They're up.
If one of these has a
The
little
football
bit
team now on the clock. Let's see what they do.
Because in the end, we're going to combine all of this, and I'm going to put this in one single mason jar. The reason these mason jars are so small is because it's going into my slow cooker, right? And you guys probably saw, right?
The Browns are now on the clock. Okay, it's the Lions now on the clock.
So as I stir this up, I'm going to try to make it so I get a lot of the...
Okay, the Bears are on the clock now.
So let's put that here. Now,
the Colts are now on the clock.
This is a canning jar thing, holder, picker-upper. I'll let you get the description. But what this allows me to do, if this is super hot, which is not, but it will be, then I could do something like this, no problemo. And notice I didn't put the tops of these on. And I didn't do that, and I think that shouldn't be a problem. So one thing that I'm going to do, I notice the water's gone down.
All right, on the clock now, the Cowboys.
I'm going to turn this
on the clock now, it's the Broncos. The time is ticking. All right, it's the Panthers now on the clock.
I'm going to take this out. The reason I'm going to take it out is because I'm going to introduce cold water to this, and that's not going on. Actually, let's make it hot water. You know, we're running by the seat of our pants here, guys. So I'm turning my hot water on. I'm going to try to get this hot. And with the hot water going there, it should chop the rest of the temperature less. And yeah, that's the goal. So right now, come on, guys. And I'm just waiting for the water to heat up, because otherwise, you can see right here, I have these temperature things. One of these is actually wireless. I can go have it on my desk, and it shows me that it's 75 degrees right here, right? So that's pretty cool. I have it.
The Ravens are now on the clock.
When it gets to 85, so okay, now this is hot water. When I pour this in there, what I'm trying to do is have the water go up to a similar height of the jars.
Okay, here we go. The Jets now on the clock.
I apologize. I keep having my back to it. It's because this kitchen is bullshit. It's small. Anyway, I'm doing like acrobatics and shit, right? Anyway, so let's go ahead and grab one of these jars, put it in there.
The Jaguars are now on the clock.
Come on and check this out. Actually, it should be great. You'll see that
The Texans are now on the clock.
And what that thermometer is reading the temperature inside the water, right? So that's perfect. Let's get this in here. And notice, I don't need to do anything to weigh these down because of the height of which the water is currently, right? Now, obviously, you have to be careful. You don't want to introduce too much water inside of these jars, right? Because otherwise there will be water in your oil, which that's fine. It will separate when the oil hardens. But here we go. So you see, we have this little thermometer that's in here. And the thermometer comes out to this device right here, which reads the temperature. The temperature right now says 66 degrees Celsius. What we're looking for is 85 degrees Celsius or 185 degrees Fahrenheit, right? Depending on where you're at and what your temperature. I could set it to Fahrenheit, it's fine. What I'm going to do is put this back on top. And what happens now is I preheated, or I tried to preheat. It's on high, right? And what I'm going to do is wait till this gets to roughly 80.
Here we go. The Raiders now on the clock.
There. And then I'm going to switch it to low. When I switch it to low, I'm going to let it cook for 4 hours. After 4 hours, we're going to come back. And when we come back, we are going to strain out or strain the oil from the cannabis, and we will be left with this coconut or this cannabis-infused coconut oil. The grain, you know? Anyway, so let me
the Cardinals on the clock now. What direction will they go?
In 4 hours. Every hour, I will
The
not
Seahawks are on the clock now.
I'm going to stir the jars. Now, again, if any water gets in them because I didn't put the tops on, or because when I'm taking in and out with this thing, I get a little bit of water. When the coconut oil hardens,
the Chiefs are up now. Let's see what direction they go.
From the water, and I can
the Saints are now on the clock.
It might not. Let's see. Anyways, guys, I'll see you in about 4 hours. Yo, so it's been 4 hours.
The Saints are on the clock now.
Anyways,
what direction will they go?
Come on over here. Let me show you some stuff. So first, I recommend something like this. This is Therm Pro. I don't know the exact model. I'm going to link it in the description. This right here. So real quick, I was just chilling, reading a book.
All right, the Chiefs are now on the clock.
This thing will tell me. I put in a temperature in here, and when this temperature reaches that maximum temperature. So, for example, I have it at 85 degrees Celsius, which is 185 degrees Fahrenheit, which I don't want it to pass that. So what happens when it hits that? Right now, you'll see it's at 83 degrees, right? When it passes...
All right, the Seahawks are now on the clock.
Let me know. Now, different crock pots have different temperatures. You're going to want to have some kind of thing measuring the temperature. You can see in here, and I'm going to show you in a second, that there's a metal probe in there, and that's what's reading the temperature. So when it gets to 185 degrees Fahrenheit or 85 degrees Celsius, it goes off. And then I can come over here and change it from low to warm. I can also pick up the cover, etc., to play with the heat. I had to do that. Now, you might have a crock pot that doesn't get to this temperature on its low setting.
All right, now it's the Cardinals' turn. They're up.
It's different for different manufacturers, right? So you're definitely going to want some type of thermometer. I'll link this in the description. I found it super useful. I really like this thing.
And now on the clock, it's the Raiders.
Notify my phone, right? Anyway, let's put that down. Come on over here. I'm going to take the top off, right? Go topless, baby.
And the Texans now on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
What I did is I didn't put the lids on tight, but I added those lids. I'm going to put this right here.
All right, the Jaguars are now on the clock.
And then,
now we turn to the Eagles. They're on the clock.
Canning tops, right? This is the...
The Jets now on the clock. Okay, the Ravens are on the clock now.
Hello there, Emily Kyle here, registered dietitian nutritionist, certified holistic cannabis practitioner, and fellow cannabis consumer. And today I am so excited to show you how to make crock pot cannabis coconut oil.
On the clock now, it's the Dolphins. Time is ticking.
This will be the staple recipe for all of your cannabis edibles. You can also use a cannabis tincture, or cannabis oil can easily be swapped for any fat in any recipe. Now, it's important to note that you can also make this exact same recipe, the exact same process with butter, with Victory and
up, it's the Broncos on the clock. The Colts now on the clock. Let's see what they do.
All right, so the first step is that
The Chargers now on the clock.
This is going to be because you're going to be making your cannabis.
The Bears are now on the clock.
Now that your crock pot is full of water, you want to make sure that you have a digital read thermometer so that you can tell the temperature. This is really important because temperature control is important to make sure that you don't denature the cannabinoids inside your cannabis. So now that you have your water bath, you're going to put a digital read thermometer inside. You're going to set the settings to high. Now that your digital read thermometer is inside, you're going to watch
the Lions on the clock now. What direction will they go?
85 degrees, you're going to turn your crock pot down to low. While your crock pot is heating up, you're going to want to measure and grind and decarboxylate your cannabis. Now for cannabis crock pot, coconut oil, you can use a wide variety of cannabis. A lot of people prefer to use leaves and stems that they have left over in order to make the most of what they have. But as they
Okay, here we go. Washington now on the clock.
So the higher quality cannabis flower you include, the higher quality your final product will be.
The Vikings are now on the clock.
A finely ground cannabis flower, you're going to go ahead and decarboxylate that flower. Now, some folks will do it right inside of a mason jar that they plan to put the coconut oil in, or you can use a little packet. Or
all right, next up, the Bucks are on the clock.
If you don't know how to decarboxylate your cannabis, be sure to check this channel. I have another video on how to do that. Imagine this.
And now we turn to the Bengals. It's their selection.
We're going to put it into a mason jar. And next will come your coconut oil. And coconut oil will do. It is going to be thawed at room temperature, so if you prefer, you can go ahead and get it liquefied. You do want to make sure that it's not too hot. You don't want it to go over 240 degrees. You're going to pour that into your mason jar, and you're going to seal it tight. Now, you're going to let this cook for at least 4 hours.
Okay, it's the Patriots on the clock now.
Walk away. You just want to make sure
the 49ers on the clock now. What direction will they go?
After 4 hours, you're going to very carefully remove this.
Okay, here we go. The Bengals now on the clock. Okay, it's the Bucks now on the clock.
With a strainer. You're going to pour this through, and inside at the bottom, you will have your very own beautiful, freshly made cannabis coconut oil. Now remember, coconut oil is solid at room temperature, so this is what it will look like when it is solid. It will be liquid when you pour it out.
The Vikings are on the clock now. What direction will they go?
Once you have this final cannabis coconut oil, you are done. You can store it in a mason jar. You want it in a cool, dark place. The refrigerator works well. You can freeze cannabis coconut oil if you want to keep it fresher. But when pouring it out, you want to make sure that you never microwave your cannabis coconut oil, or you're going to risk denaturing those cannabinoids.
Okay, the Browns on the clock now.
Once you have this final product, the world is your oyster. You can use it to make topicals, edibles, just about anything.
The Lions on the clock now. The Bears are up now. Let's see what direction they go.
www.emilypilenutrition.com.
And now we turn to the Colts. It's their selection.
Subscribe, and I'll see you all soon.
The Cowboys now on the clock. The Broncos are on the clock now. The Panthers now on the clock. The Dolphins now on the clock. And now we turn to the Jets. It's their selection. And the Eagles on the clock now. Let's see what direction they go. On the clock now, the Jaguars. All right, now on the clock, the Texans. The Raiders on the clock now. What direction will they go? The Cardinals are now on the clock. On the clock now, it's the Seahawks. Time is ticking. On the clock now, the Chiefs. All right, on the clock now, the Saints. Okay, the Chiefs are on the clock now. Okay, next up, it's the Seahawks on the clock. All right, now it's the Raiders' turn. They're up. The Jaguars are up now. Let's see what direction they go in. Okay, the Eagles on the clock now. All right, next up, the Jets are on the clock.
Hello and welcome to the Build Us Well YouTube series. This is Season 3, Episode 9. We've already got the other transplants done, which means it's time to start the autoflower seed. So today is about autoflowers and earth boxes. For those of you that followed along in the past, we've used earth boxes throughout our series, mainly because they're a really good jumping off point for people who are worried about
the Ravens are up now. Let's see what direction they go.
This makes it
all right, the Dolphins are now on the clock.
Overwatering, and when you do it right, it hooks up.
Now the Broncos are on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
The speed of growth and yield that you get out of a small container. Today we'll discuss why it works, how it works so well.
Okay, here we go. The Colts now on the clock.
When you're done watching the video, do not consider
on the clock now, it's the Chargers, and time is ticking. On the clock now, the Bears. And the Browns are on the clock now. Let's see what direction they go.
Go out there, pull fresh herbs, take down some peppers, have lettuce. If you're into that kind of stuff, the tent behind us is going to be for vegetables. And this is the brand new earth box. If you've been following, we have other earth boxes. We're going to use those in the veggie tent. We're setting up a brand new one today so we can take advantage of teaching you from beginning what it looks like, what it comes with. There's multiple ways to do this, and when you learn from the manufacturer, they kind of teach you a little differently than the build-a-soil way. So if you're going to use living soil in the earth box, I want to teach you how to do it. Now for autoflowers, they're a little bit finicky. And what I mean by that is when you grow them, we all know how much a setback can slow you down when you're growing. But the difference with autoflowers is we don't have any time to recover from the setback because they go into flower when they go into flower. Where normally, if you have a veg room and if you have a flower room, as long as the veg room has healthy plants that are ready to move into flower, there's never a delay. You can always pick and choose from there. You can have an abundance.
And now we turn to the WFT. It's their selection.
You can have one take 2 weeks too long as by
on the clock now, it's the Buccaneers. The Bengals are on the clock now. All right, next up, the Patriots are on the clock.
We've never done autoflowers here as part of our
Okay, here we go. The 49ers now on the clock. On the clock now, it's the Patriots.
You might be familiar a decade ago or even longer about
the Bucs on the clock now. Let's see who they have their eye on.
Lowrider and all the other ones.
And now on the clock, it's the Vikings.
Its uniform and breeding, the quality was very good, and a lot of people call them ditch meat because the ruderalis comes from an area where there could be.
All right, next up, the football team on the clock.
Special feature, this type of hemp, this type of ruderalis plant. It acts differently.
All right, it's the Browns now on the clock.
It doesn't wait for the sun to get to 12 hours per day or less to start to flower. Normally indoors, what we do is we just trigger our lights to be on 12 hours a day. Maybe 13 would be enough, but to make sure we go 12 hours or less, and that triggers the bloom that we're after in a set period of time. Outdoors, flowering can be lengthened because the sun takes a while to go down in time, and it's a beautiful process. But when you live in an area where it gets
it's the Lions now on the clock.
Having a longer flowering variety.
All right, the Bears are now on the clock.
Takes too long, the flowers aren't done, and it gets.
All right, next up, the Colts are on the clock.
Ability to say, look, if pollen is flying, I'm going to flower before it even happens. If it gets cold, I'll finish before that's an issue. So there's always this reason to try and work with autoflowers. And so the difference is
the Cowboys on the clock now. What direction will they go?
The day it germinates, it's on a ticking time clock.
All right, the Broncos are now on the clock.
Regardless of what the sun does. It could be 12 hours a day the whole time. So just do its thing and go to flower. It could be 24 hours of light the whole time and we'll go to flower. Most people agree that 18 hours of light and 6 hours off is
now we turn to the Panthers. They're on the clock.
And I think that's coupled by the fact that we're really
now the Dolphins are on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
It's just going to be too much light in a day for most plants. So the seeds that we're going to be popping, a lot of you requested that we do these ones. The strawberry milk and cookies. And it's spelled with a Q. And this is, let's see, milk and cookies crossed to Bruce Banner number 3R. And there are 5 seeds in here, and we only need 4 of them. But I'm going to plant them to make sure that we have 2 per earth boxes. We're going to run 2 earth boxes. And originally, we were going to run both these earth boxes in the same flowering tent as our normal 10 by 10. But we're going to eventually go to a 12-hour.
On the clock now, the Ravens. The Jets now on the clock. Let's see what they do. The Eagles are now on the clock. Okay, the Jaguars are now on the clock. On the clock now, it's the Texans. Time is ticking. The Raiders now on the clock. And now on the clock, it's the Cardinals. Now the Seahawks are on the clock. Who do they have their eye on? The Chiefs on the clock now. Okay, it's the Saints now on the clock. The Chiefs are up now. Let's see what direction they go. The Seahawks are on the clock now. Okay, here we go. The Raiders now on the clock. Okay, the Texans up now. They're on the clock. The Jaguars are now on the clock.
Welcome to True Guns TV, and today we're making cannabis-infused coconut oil using the mason jar.
Okay, here we go. The Jets now on the clock.
It's really simple. Coconut oil, 14 ounces here. You want to make sure you get the unrefined organic stuff.
All right, the Ravens are now on the clock.
A nice quarter, some really quality buds.
And the Panthers on the clock now. Let's see what direction they go.
Cheese block, it's all done.
On the clock now, it's the Broncos. And time is ticking.
Now, what I like to do is put a little at first, and some oil just more on top, and then you disperse it.
The Colts are now on the clock.
Perfect.
Okay, the Chargers up now. They're on the clock. Okay, the Bears are on the clock now. All right, on the clock now, the Lions. Now we turn to the Browns. They're on the clock.
You can even warm this up to make it go a little easier. Let's do this right. Go ahead and dump the rest of it. You want to go ahead and put the rest in the splitter. And a little
Washington is now on the clock. The Buccaneers are on the clock now.
So it's been...
All right, next up, the Bengals are on the clock. The Patriots on the clock right now. Let's see who they have their eye on. The 49ers now on the clock. The Patriots are now on the clock. The Bengals now on the clock. Let's see what they do. All right, next up, the Bucs are on the clock. Okay, here we go. The Vikings on the clock now.
My typical strainer here. See that? You can see it.
The football team now on the clock. Let's see what they do.
All the way to there. See that one? Big other way.
Okay, it's the Lions now on the clock.
What we want to do here is strain it as many times as possible to find
The Bears are now on the clock. And the Chargers now on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
Let's go ahead and pop this baby open. Strain it through.
Okay, it's the Cowboys now on the clock. Okay, next up, it's the Broncos on the clock.
Be safer, you might want to let it cool, not hurry for the sake of this. I'm just going to pull it.
Okay, the Panthers on the clock now. Okay, next up, it's the Dolphins on the clock. The Ravens are now on the clock.
And then I'll even go ahead and set the jar itself right on there. Let it all just go through. It's that simple. Stay in tune. We're going to have some cocktails that we're making up with very oil right here coming up.
The Jets now on the clock.
Stay on the lookout. Meanwhile, we went a little close up so we can see what this cheesecloth did and how the finished product.
All right, it's the Eagles now on the clock. All right, the Jaguars are now on the clock.
And then I'll even go ahead and set the jar itself right on there. Let it all just go through.
The Texans are now on the clock. And now on the clock, it's the Raiders.
It's that simple. Stay in tune. We're going to have some cocktails that we're making with this very oil right here coming up. Food company sent me some rolls.
Okay, here we go. The Cardinals now on the clock. All right, the Seahawks are now on the clock. All right, the Chiefs are now on the clock. It's the Saints now on the clock. The Saints are now on the clock. On the clock now, the Chiefs. On the clock now, it's the Seahawks. The time is ticking. The Raiders on the clock now. What direction will they go?
Clones of Raider. We're exhausting the air from the other tent because we're going to start some seedlings. We wanted it warm. So all the warm, humid air is being pushed inside here, which made it easy. We already had this rack in here, and I decided when we flipped the 12-12 in the big tent, we needed to take the clones out, throw them somewhere, and this made it super easy. I actually grabbed the light, which you probably shouldn't use.
And the Texans now on the clock. Who do they have their eye on?
And so we had this take product photos, and it's LED.
On the clock now, the Jaguars.
And I literally set it up here and it's kind of diffusing that bright light a little bit. And the main thing I want you to gather from this is that it doesn't take a bright light. If you have a bright light, the plant's trying to grow, they don't have any roots yet, they start to yellow up. You can see these are all green and they've produced roots. That's the effect we're after, and that's part of lower light, higher humidity.
And now we turn to the Jets. It's their selection.
Environmental video. We talk about how the environment either reduces the pressure on the plant.
Okay, the Ravens are on the clock now.
We want to reduce all of that. High humidity, nice and warm, low light, and great roots. Most important step, healthy mom plants. I'm going to take the dome out, actually show you the bottom, show you the roots, and we're going to rewind a little bit, show you how we got here, how we set it up, how many days it took to get all the roots that we're about to show you. Today we're going to talk about rooting your cuts, or cloning as they call it, and there's a number of different ways to do this. At the Bookstore website, I have 2 blog articles to discuss our method of doing it, and another one which is the importance of
on the clock now, it's the Dolphins. The time is ticking.
Causes the plant to root. And I think that's the one that's the most important, because when you understand how to do this, it doesn't matter as much the actual ingredients or the method. And what I mean by that is we're using a tray today, and I'm going to show you how I do it, and we're using these cups. These incubator plugs, they call them.
All right, it's the Panthers now on the clock.
The other way to do it is to clone in
the Broncos are on the clock now.
Mixing machine in a bucket with a pump. Both work, and I want to explain how we do our process. But if you understand the environment and what it takes to get a plant to root, it doesn't matter which method you use, and I think that's important to note. So we're just going to jump right into our method. Of course, there's many ways to do it. So let's discuss
the Colts now on the clock. Let's see what they do.
It's important because
all right, now on the clock, the Chargers.
And pressure is caused when there's heat, and the plant needs to open its stomata and
the Bears are up now. Let's see what direction they go. The Lions on the clock now. What direction will they go?
High humidity will keep it from drooping its leaves, and we want to be like 90 to 100% humidity. The best way to achieve that is with a dome. Now, if you have a clone in a room or a clone in tent, you don't need a dome. This is just an easy way to do it. There's some vents on it, so as you go, you're going to slowly open the vents, and you're going to harden them off to a normal humidity, if that makes sense, once they actually get their own roots. So in here we also have a tray. This is the Grodan Smart Tray. I'm going to go ahead and remove this right now. There's a number of different trays that you can use. You don't have to use this one. The reason I do use this one, it's dishwasherable. It's easy. It lasts a long time. It also has this lift here. So when I put it in the tray, it holds my rooting cups.
Okay, here we go. Washington now on the clock.
What that allows me to do is, if these plants
it's the Bucks now on the clock.
Pour water in the bottom. The water will increase the humidity. It'll also give it a spot
Check.
without air pruning so fast, and that'll allow me to keep a tree.
What's up, Jack?
While I'm waiting for the rest of the root, if that makes sense. There's the tray setup. Very basic dome tray. I'm going to move this to the side.
And now we turn to the Bengals. It's their selection.
And I've got a label. So typically what I would do is I would only use one row for each genetic or each number of plant. And I've got them all labeled here. And so each time I pull one of these out of here, I can pre-soaking those, I'll explain it.
What's up, man?
I'm going to take, for instance, the brand new Royal Bank number 2, BRR number 2 in green. And I could write right here in Sharpie, BRR number 2, or I could put masking tape across the whole side. Many ways, but then I'll know this whole row is designated to that particular plant. And you can do that all the way down. Sometimes I'll actually draw it on paper. If I have like a whole bunch of different ones, then I'll actually drew it out with a ribbon and a picture of it so I don't mess up later in case something gets ruined. So there's the basics. We use these plugs. I've used a number of different brands, and people that have used these in the past notice that they don't compost. When you're done with multiple cycles, you'll still find these root pucks in there. So this brand, we're hoping is a little bit different, but it's going to be new to us. We just started offering them. I've used them a couple times. They're simple ingredients like cocoa coir, moss, and biochar. What we're hoping is that lends to a breakdown that's more natural. The other brands have a proprietary glue in there that they say is made from peat moss, which is kind of strange, but they don't mention what it is, and it do not decompose. So we're hoping this is different. Let me show you what's in here. It comes in here with a little bit of moisture, and you can see they've got like a spongy texture and a little bit of moisture that's in there. Not enough moisture, and so I'm going to add my own moisture. I just do plain water. On the tutorial on the Build a Slow blog, we actually soak the plugs in our rooting mixture. You can do that. I've now preferred to just soak my cups in that mixture and let them drink it for a little while and keep these in plain water. Part of the reason is that I can reuse them later if I don't use them. So what I'm going to do is instead of counting these out, I'm going to dump them in plain filtered water that I have right here. And that will allow me to reach in there and grab them with the full amount of moisture that's needed so that I can root up all the plugs today. And then when I'm done, because I've only soaked in plain water, I'll put them back in here and I'll close it up and they'll be good and nice and moist for the next time that I go to use them. So that's pretty cool. There's the bag aside. I'm going to dump these in here. Now, the one thing I will tell you is that I had a buddy that used another brand, and he likes to put his hand in there and really squeeze these. They really get him to absorb moisture, and that's like his protocol. And he said these fall apart a little bit. That's a good sign to me because I'm hoping they decompose. So I'm not going to start squeezing these. I'm going to show you how I get the moisture right. Right now, I'm just soaking them. And then I'll take the time for these to soak to explain what I do here. I've got a cup, and right now it's just plain water in here. You can see all the different stems that are in there. You can actually root your cuts just like this. You can set this on the kitchen counter in very weak ambient lighting, and you can change the water out every day or every other day. It works better when it's clean water, and they'll root. And it might take 15 days, it might take 3 weeks, but they'll start to gently show root callousing on here, white nubs, and then they'll start to root. Instead of waiting for that, what we prefer to do is put them in environments where there's more air. So the next step would be to add an air stone in here, and they'll root much faster. Instead of doing all of that, changing the water every day, these are used to hold the right amount of air and water. And when I do this with the right amount of air and water in a dome, it makes the whole task easier. I don't have to check the water as often. You get a lot more uniform results. Jack? If you have a healthy mom, you should be able to get them to root with just water. And so you don't need any of the products we're about to discuss. However, when you have a timeline and you're around the same time and you're getting them off and running as fast as possible, we've noticed certain products reduce that. You can go buy cloning hormone gel, and it has indole acid and a few different other products manufactured.
What, man?
These were all taken from natural sources. So the original source was from kelp meal or kelp extract. It has hormones in it.
Want more food?
The source was the aloe vera plant. The other one that was mentioned online a lot was people would go to the willow tree. They would actually soak the parts of the willow tree in the water and make what's called willow water. That's high in salicylic acid, which is aspirin, which is a hormone they use in rooting. So instead of going through the whole education, all I'm going to tell you is that we rooting. We'll soak a little bit in the water. I added about a half teaspoon into this glass of water. And I also added a little bit of root wise, which you don't need, but it does have the seaweed extract in there, along with some microbes. And I'm hoping there's hormones along with that. I soaked the two, I put those both in this water, and I soaked it for about 24 hours. Yesterday, we decided we were going to do this video today. So I needed to wait another 24 hours, and I just changed the water out, because it was the brown water from the aloe and the root wise to plain tap water to make sure they don't start to rot or anything funny. They all look really happy and healthy. This was actually in the grow room underneath the grow light. So you don't have to be particular about where you put them, as long as they're in full water. Now that we've got those and we're ready to root them up, I'm just going to get started. We soaked in there. They're now just been sitting here for 2 days. Like I mentioned, they can stay here a lot longer, so the 2 days I'm not terribly worried about. Next up is to actually label them and dome them. And I don't have my Sharpie here, so what I'm going to do is start with one, show you how I do it. I'm just going to grab my Sharpie and finish this process up so you can see a finished tray when it's all done. I have some scissors just in case I didn't clean them up enough when I was taking them off the plant. That'll allow me to address any little nubs or things that I might want to clean up when I'm putting them in here. Sometimes I'll barely take any leaf off, and I'll do all of this right now when I'm plugging them in. So it's up to you how you do your workflow. I'm going to take the dome off. Sometimes if I was under intense lighting, I would put the dome back on after every time I plugged a plant because I don't want them to start to droop when they get out of the water. In here, I think it's going to be pretty low pressure, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm going to take the dome off, and I'm going to go for it. I'm going to only start with one of these. And then I'll go get the Sharpie. So let's grab one that's got a few in there. Start right here. So I'm going to try not to grab the others because these are just loosely tagged and I don't want them to fall out. There we go. See, that one almost pulled. I don't want to unidentify it. So this is the halitosis number 2. And so oh wow, it smells pretty good. So I'm going to label this section of the tray halitosis number 2. I'm just going to slide these right out of here. You can undo the tag, whatever's easier. There we go. Set these down. Now here's the thing. You want to get the moisture right on these pucks. That's probably a little too much, just fully saturated. I could squeeze it right now and let all the water out. I'm just going to do a couple shakes is all I'm going to do. That's enough. For me, it's now not completely dripping. It'll hold water on there, which you can see they're fine with 100% water. And as it slowly starts to dry down, more towards the normal time when it would root, 5 to 7 days, that'll give it some air in there. And then if I miss that window, I can come back and mist it just a little bit to keep it moist. This is the wettest it's going to be from this point forward. In here, in the top, there's already a little bit of a hole. And so all I want to do is make sure that I'm not going too tall here. If this is in there and my dome is on, you can tell that that's almost hitting the top. I don't really want to do that. And so what I'm going to do is cut just a little bit off of here. I'm going to go down to the next node where it's more likely roots are going to come out. And I'm going to shave that just a little bit. Then I'm going to take a fresh cut. Some people get weird. They say 45-degree angle and all that. I'm going to do that, but I don't think it really matters. Okay, now I'm going to put this right here into the puck so that I get those nodes I was talking about right in the target zone so roots can come out. I'm happy with that. That's ready to go. In the next 2 weeks, we should see roots on this. I'm going to put it right here because I know how many I'm doing. I'm only doing 10, a few of each. And so I'll be able to label the front of this as all of these as halitosis number 2. The reason why I took more than one is I'm not sure if they're all going to make it, and I don't want to be gambling. I want to make sure I've got a healthy cut to keep, because if this turns out to be the winner, I'm going to be really sad if I don't get it to root, and I only have one. So that's what I'm doing right now. I think the rest of these are the proper height, or at least these two are, so let me go for it. Put it next to each other. If you're only doing a few, you can spread these out so the leaves don't touch. If you're doing a lot, you can put them right next to each other. It really doesn't matter. But I do like to put them more and piling them in there on top of each other. Some people don't trim the leaves. Totally up to you, but it has less work for the plant to maintain. Now, that one's a little tall. I think what I'm going to do is back that back out and go to the next node. And I just don't like smashing them on top of that plastic there. I'm just removing a little bit of this outer layer so it's easier for the roots to pop out when it's time. And I'm going to cut it off. That's it. Right in there, just be careful not to shove too hard when you break your stalk. It can happen. If you've only got a few of them, it'll make you sad. That's it. I don't want to go any further without labeling it so I don't mess up. So I'm going to put the dome back on. I'm going to go grab a Sharpie from the grow area where I normally keep it for labeling. And I'm going to fill this whole tray. And when we fast forward this and come back, you're going to see the rest of this all filled up. And we're going to keep checking back on it. To show you this start to show, the fastest I ever see is about 5 days. Those genetics won't do that. You're probably going to see a time frame closer to about 2 weeks when you're first doing this at home. It could take up to 3 weeks depending on the genetics. And if you read our tutorial on the blog, we go into low amounts of light so you don't overdrive them. That would drastically increase your success, so I encourage you to check that out. All right, so these are all puffed up and they're ready to go. We're expecting them to produce roots in the next couple of weeks, and we'll show you as we go. I've got them all labeled on the bottom in Sharpie, and so I'll take a photo of that just in case it gets rubbed off. But for now, I'm going to be putting these in the 10x10 on the shelf where there's very low lighting, and I will update you in the future. Let me talk about one thing that we missed. I have this bag of sea moss, wild-crafted African sea moss sitting here. I want to mention why. This is something I encourage you to experiment with. I'm going to be experimenting with it. I have no past experience, so who knows if it's going to work. But one of the things I was taught, and where some of this came from, like the aloe idea, some growers actually take aloe and literally stick their plants right into the aloe leaf. They'll use that as a cloning gel, and they'll put it in their pucks. So a gel is a way to coat the stem with what you want. And a lot of times there's cloning gel products on the market made from chemicals. And Coot, who's talking about the aloe, he always mentioned that you could make a gel from like a chia seed or a seaweed. The reason why it's so important is it makes a gel, but it also grows on a rock in the ocean, so it produces all of the nutrients in a special relationship by pulling it from the rock, and then you can make a gel, and it's got a ton of health benefits. You've probably already heard of it. What we're going to try and do is make the gel, put it in a jar, and then mix in there some of our aloe and some seaweed and do some tests. See if we can't dunk our stems into the gel, hold the seaweed and aloe on there before we put it in our pucks, and see if it decreases the time it takes to root. I have no clue if it's going to work, but I have fun experimenting with these things, and since it was brought up in the past that a gel from seaweed could work, I wanted to mention to it. We carry this product. Many distributors carry it, but I really believe in this one, and we can share why. Ask questions if you got it. Otherwise, I wanted to mention it. Like a lot of products here, you can use it for home human health. And so this particular product is actually a human-grade health product. And there's instructions on the back about how to make the gel and how to make drinks from it on their website. And it's a really new superfood. If you're not aware of sea moss, you should check it out. There's a few different types, and there's a lot of scams in the industry. This particular manufacturer actually went to the source, has seen it, witnessed it, touched it, found this, and brought it back. And so I think it's worth sharing. I'm not very salesy. I almost forget, so I'm kind of laughing after we finish recording. We have a kit that includes these incubator plugs, the dome, the black tray, and the orange insert that we use. That way you don't have to shop around the website. So if you just go to buildasoil.com and you look up the cloning kit, you'll find it there. Well, it's been 11 days since I showed you the process. And just a few seconds ago, I was taking the cuttings and putting them in the water and putting them inside these pucks and putting them in the tray. And I talked about that process. So let me show you how far we've got since then. They're labeled across. It's really hard to see, but each row is representative of one of the types of plants that we're trying to preserve. All I need is one from each row, and my job is done. And I want to pick the best one, and I want to transplant them. So first off, you'll notice they're all green still. They're not all ugly and yellow. They don't have any growth problems, and that's attributed to following the process. High humidity, low levels of light, so they're not trying to grow. And so then what I typically do is I don't like pulling them in and out because I don't want to damage the roots. And so I'll look underneath, and I'll try and see if there's a good percentage. And you can see that there's roots coming out of all of these, basically all of them. And if there's one that's missing, I'll pull it up and I'll look, and they're just starting to root. And they started rooting on day 8, day 9, and then we left for the weekend, came back, and now it looks like all of them pretty much started over the weekend. You could wait a little while until they get a little bit more root system going. And some people like to have a thicker root system before they transplant. I like to get, when I'm using pucks, immediately transplanted. It's not like hanging in water where it can grow roots really fast. There's no nutrients in here. Once they start drinking, they're going to want to start growing, and they're going to start to show issues. The second I can get these roots into some soil, I feel like they're going to do better. My main rule is that I try not to do that when there's just one little taproot sticking out. Sometimes it can be a little bit too much for them. I'll wait until we see a little bit something more normal. Like this was one of the first ones that was rooting. And so you're starting to get a little bit more. It's dry right now, so it's not all furry and fuzzy. You can see this one is air pruning. So if I were to water it again, I could stay in here longer. It would continue to grow roots, or I can transplant it today, and that's what I'm going to do. So what I have to do is pick the best one from each and put it into soil. And that's what I'm looking to do right now. So I'm going to grab the cups, grab the soil. I don't want to keep these out in the low humidity air, so I'm going to put the dome back on, and you should do the same. They're already starting to curl up a little bit. And so what I'll do is once I transplant them into the soil, I'm going to do small cups to begin with so that I can keep the humidity up. It's pretty humid in my tent. I could probably do without, but I'm going to want to just put them back in a humidity dome environment, and that'll make sure that they stay nice and healthy until I want to remove the dome and fully transition them into a regular grow environment with more intense light and a little more demand on them. So that's the next step. I'll grab the stuff and I'll show you right now. I want to share a couple of important tips. Humidity is really important right now. It's very dry in Colorado. It may not be where you live. And so I'm out here, I'm out of the grow tents. The light isn't super intense. That's not going to be a problem. But when I lift this dome off and I go to slowly transplant all of these, it's going to take a while. And if I just take the cups that I'm going to use, I put the soil in it, I put the clone in it, and I set it over here, eventually they're going to start to wilt. And the reason why is they've been used to this really high humidity and warmth. And I would take that away as soon as I open the dome. So what I'm going to do is work in a process where I just open it, I take one out, I put it in here, and then I put it in this one that I grabbed right now. So I'm going to do another dome, and that'll keep it humid. It'll keep it so that it is happy. The only thing I'm going to do right now is lift this up, and I'm going to add a little bit of water in here. That's going to raise the humidity right away. And I'm not really trying to water the plants. I'm just trying to keep it so that it's not bone dry in there. Right? And as soon as I add the plant to soil, that'll change the process so that it stays humid in there. I'll move it back into the same environment I had it in. And you don't have to use a dome. It's a little bit of a restriction because the height of the cup, and I'll show you one trick that I use to combat that if your clones are a little bit taller with this setup. Otherwise, I can just turn a humidifier on in that grow tent, and it's not going to be a problem. But since I'm out in the open, I'm going to at least put them in here temporarily. And you may not have a humidifier, and this is a great way to go. Another option, if you don't have this, if it is not humid, and you don't have a humidifier, take a 5-gallon bucket, take your newly transplanted clones, set them in the bottom, and put a plastic bag over the top and poke holes in it. You now created a humid environment. So you don't have to have all the tools. Lots of ways to do this as soon as you know the solution to the problem is just a little bit of moisture containment. All right, so I'm going to use these cups. I've got a carry tray. I'm not going to do all of them. I'm only going to do the 10 that I need to keep. So there's 10 different seeds that we have that are female. I want to keep 1 cutting from each. The rest I'll keep in here until I'm positive that we have a good transition. And then I'm just going to give the rest away. We're only going to keep backup of the 10 that we have. And then I'm going to make sure that we have a keeper. So I'm going to keep them small. I kept the plant tags off of the cuttings. So you'll recall earlier, I had all of the cuttings wrapped, a bundle of like 2 or 3 of them, and I was soaking it in the water. When I transplanted all of those in here and labeled it, I kept these so I didn't have to waste it. Now the keeper one is going to get labeled with its already made label in the cup, and then that would get transplanted into the next container that goes in here. And eventually, I'm only going to keep 1 of all of these, whatever the best one is. So that's the name of the game. I'm going to get started right now. I've got the baby soil light recipe. They take really well to this, and so I'm just going to open the bag. I'm going to transplant. I'm going to do the dome thing. Real quick before I forget, I want to show you the one trick that I mentioned for the humidity dome. You don't have to have it completely sealed, right? They're not under a lot of light, so it doesn't have to be 100% humidity. I've already added the water. But if I need this to be taller because my plants won't fit, all that I do is I take some of these, which I'll have extra space. I can always do an extra tray like this. And now you have 4 corners that you can raise the dome on. It's lifted, there's a little airflow, but it works. And it's just a little hack where if you need a little bit of height, you still need the dome. I'm going to show you at least the basics of the first one, and then I'll get after it for the rest. And so with our soil, it has the sewing strip on it. I mentioned, you just pull it right off. Set that down. All right, that looks great. So I'm just going to use the cup to scoop. I'm going to grab one, and I'm going to try and make sure that I'm pre-gamed. So right over here is the halitosis number 2. I can see it in Sharpie right there, so that's the first one. I'm going to look for that. Here's the Halley number 2. I'm going to look for the best one. I'm going to transplant it, and then I'm going to label it, and I'm going to put the dome back on so that it is hanging out in a nice environment. So let me grab a cup. When you transplant, I'm trying to keep the height down, right? So all I'm doing is putting a little bit of soil, and then I'm going to backfill. Now, I don't want it to go too high up the stalk, but that rooting puck is about this tall. It's going to go in the cup, and so you can see it'll be above the top if I fill the soil too much, and I don't want to make it a pain. So I'm going to keep just a small amount of soil in there. That should be good enough. I'm going to grab the best one here. So let's see. I'm just looking for the most roots. I could actually see if one of them looks like a better structure. So I'm picking a whole bunch. Really, it doesn't matter. They're all the same. They all look like they have pretty good roots. Every single one of these rooted. So between that one and this one has a little bit more roots. So I'm just going to go with that one. And now I have these backed up just in case this one doesn't take, which it's going to, but stupid things happen. Like you'll transplant and drop the tray on the way to the tent and kill one of them. Or something really silly that you just didn't think of. That's why I have extra. I'm not planning on growing all of these, but it just makes sure that you have it. Put that in there. I just hold it with my finger like this. Then I grab soil with my hand and I just backfill around it. And then the only thing that I would do next is irrigate with some root lies. And I usually use a little bit of aloe, something like that, a wetting agent, just to make sure that they have a nice, gentle transition. And I like to put root lies in contact with the roots right away. These are brand new roots. We'll start that microbial association. I just kind of tap the side. You can press it down just a little bit to make sure when you water for the first time, it's not going to just run out everywhere. I'll set that in here. I want to label it before I forget, so I'm just going to wrap this. I'd like to have these higher up on the branches that'll sit in the soil, but early on there's no way to do that, so I'm just going to wrap it around the base. Pull it through. There we go. First one's done. I'm going to put this dome on here. Well, let's see if it fits without. Just trying to share some tips. Usually what I do is I actually just put the clone over here. It's a little bit more stable with soil in it. These are empty, so not nearly stable. Look at that. One's good. These actually fit without the cups, but if your clones are taller and you can't bury it down too deep, then you can just use this little hack. It works better with the soil in the cup. I actually use the clone pushed to the edge so I maximize my space in here, but I wanted to show you how I did that. I need to put the lid back on this one too. Before these all dry out, it won't happen super fast, but man, you don't want to stress them. There's no reason to do that. Use the lid. So I just finished transplanting the halitosis number 2, and I went to products. You'll recognize these because these are what I used to pre-soak the petals in to get them. I think